Hey strangers, welcome to another episode of the Strange Sessions. I'm Krista, always sidekick to Kurt. We're here in a nice, cool, like
it's
maybe
actually
60-degree studio.
Yeah, when I drove here this morning, when I left town, it was 58 degrees, which is so nice.
The heat wave finally broke. It was like heat indexes of or indices of like 100 here for like the last month.
It's been nuts.
It's been crazy. Yep. So I looked at that bingo thing you posted again.
Yeah.
And I just forgot how funny that is. And
yeah.
I'm like, we say almost every single one of these in every episode. And
like
here we are
talking about
the weather.
Talking about making another one.
Oh, really? She should. Because I'm sure we have new things that we've added to our regular repertoire of odd things that we say every episode.
So what else is new? Neither of us are real healthy
Chipper today?
Yeah.
Just lack of sleep.
Probably.
We're both lacking sleep.
The last couple days have been rough. My friend Nikki that listens to the podcast, hi Nikki.
Hi Nikki.
Was in town yesterday, so we met for lunch, and I told her, I said, driving there, I literally felt like I was drunk driving because everything was just kind of swimming, and it's exactly how I feel when I'm drunk. So I don't know what it was. You know, Corey thinks it's my blood sugar.
It could
level.
be a combination. Dr. Krista.
Or it could be my sleep, because I have a new Fitbit. I bought a new Fitbit 2 weeks ago, and it's monitoring my sleep, which is, I think, one day since I got it, I hit 6 hours. Otherwise, it's like 5 hours, 4.5, 5.5. So my sleep sucks.
6 hours is a good night for me.
Yeah. I remember when I could sleep like 9 hours, no problem.
I don't think I've ever slept 9 hours.
Oh, God, I have.
That's
back
crazy.
when I was younger.
When somebody says they slept until 9 a.m., I'm like, were you dead? Like, how does that work?
Yep.
I'm wide awake at 5 a.m.
Oh, yeah. I have
sometimes
friends,
earlier.
I have friends that legitimately get worried about me if they text me at 7:30 in the morning and I don't text back
awake.
right away.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's what's causing it. I don't think it's COVID.
No, lack of sleep can have a serious impact on your body and your cognition and everything.
Yeah. So I don't know why I don't feel good.
Sorry to start on such a downer. We were going to draw a tarot card. What was it going to be about?
Oh, my dream.
Oh, your
I had.
dream. Let's talk about your dream.
So I was telling, when Krista picked me up at the park and ride, we were talking about our dreams, and I told her that last night, and I wasn't going to talk about this on the podcast, but we said maybe I should because it's
definitely podcast
weird.
Material. Yeah.
But last night I slept on and off, and I woke up to pee like around 2:00 in the morning. And
thanks for the information.
Hey, I'm
an open book.
I'm an open book.
Yep.
And went back to bed, and then I struggled to get back to sleep, but I finally did fall asleep. And then I had this weird dream, and I only remember bits and pieces of it. But I was in this cottage type house, and there was something to do with a little girl and a yellow shower curtain. Which Krista, when I told Krista that, she's
right away, I'm like, well,
I already
creepy.
don't like this. And
it was creepy.
I don't remember what it was about. But then there was a point in the dream where I was out on the front porch of the cottage house thing I was in, and I heard somebody on the porch say, "Are you done trying to fight me yet?"
Where does the nun come into it?
And that was a nun.
It was a nun who said that to you?
Because it was a devil. It was like a devil thing. There was all this devil stuff going on. It was something to do with the devil.
To me, it seems like the nun was actually facing who was talking to you.
No, the nun was talking. No, the nun was talking to me.
Oh, that's creepy.
But there's something to do with the devil, and
but she had her back to you.
Yes, I heard. Are you done trying to fight me yet? Nope. And I looked, and there was a nun on the porch with me, and she had her back to me, and she turned around, and I don't remember what her face looked like.
It's probably good.
And
you blocked it out.
Then I told Krista, I said, I don't remember the rest of the dream, but I don't know if this was part of the dream or a waking dream or what this was. But when I got done dreaming that, I woke up, and I was looking at the side of my bed when I woke up, and there was a figure of a shadow there. And when I looked at it, it just went zooming backwards away from the bed.
Could you tell if it was facing you? Or
it was facing me originally.
So it zoomed backwards?
It didn't turn around. It just zoomed backwards, like it was standing, and then it just zoomed
so
backwards,
creepy.
into the closet area.
Ugh.
And I don't know if that was a dream, because I've had nothing weird happen in this apartment.
That's good.
Ever since I moved in there.
Have you had weird dreams, though?
No.
But okay.
Like I told Krista, when I have dreams like this with the nun that was supposedly the devil saying, "Are you done?"
It's not scary in the moment.
It's not scary in the moment.
Because I'm super creeped out.
It's like, sorry to my friend Carly, who yells at me every time I bring this up, but it was like when the old guy crawled out of my bathroom
with
the arched back.
Yeah.
It was like, everybody thinks you should have been that I should have been so freaked out.
You should have been.
But I wasn't. I was just like stunned.
Were you just like, huh?
I was like, that was weird. Like, I don't, and my dreams are like that. Like, I've never had a legitimate nightmare.
I would have immediately checked into a hotel. Like, there's 0% chance I would have slept there.
But there had so much had happened in that apartment by then. It was kind of par for the course with the scratches in the shower,
right?
The handprints on the mirror. So it was, but like I said, my dreams are never scary, but that was just like a major, And I woke up in that shadow thing, like zoomed back into the back of the closet or whatever. So yeah.
Okay.
So Chris is going to draw a card to see what that dream means.
I've been shuffling as you've been talking. And so here. What is it?
The Fool.
The Fool. Oh, this is actually not a bad thing.
It's got a cute little picture of
a little chick.
A little chick.
It's about spontaneity and innocence.
Oh.
So the fool is ready to fly. His young wings ache for flight, and with a single step, he leaves behind the comfort of the nest to begin the journey through the major arcana. Is he ready? Will he fall? This is a card about beginnings. It points to the side of you that is spontaneous.
It's apparently never met me.
Excited, naive, and inexperienced. Others may doubt your abilities. Be ready to be called the fool. Be ready to fall. No matter what people say about you, this is your journey, and it's already begun.
Wow, that totally kind of does fit with me.
But doesn't really fit the dream.
It doesn't fit the dream, but that's very pertinent to me right now. I feel.
The key thing about your dream to me is are you done fighting me?
Yeah, like... And Krista asked me on the drive here, are you fighting the devil? And I just don't know about it.
You didn't tell me?
And I'm like, I don't think so. I don't think I am. So it was weird.
It's probably a metaphor for something
maybe
else.
Now that you mention it, maybe she wasn't saying that, the nun wasn't saying that to me. Maybe she was saying it to something else. Maybe she was saying it to whatever
she was saying it to the devil.
Maybe she was saying it to whatever was by my bed.
What gave you the devil feel?
Just I don't remember, but there was other satanic devilish stuff going on in the dream.
Okay, but you don't remember the specifics
No, I don't remember the specifics of it, and that really bothers me because
there weren't,
I remember
pentagrams all over the wall.
There might have been because I seem to remember something like symbolism. Yeah. But then there was this little girl, and a shower that had a yellow shower curtain. And
maybe the color yellow is significant.
I don't know.
For some reason.
I don't know, but it was weird. So
someone should Google that.
We said we would talk about that on the podcast because it was kind of bizarre.
It was creepy.
But it was
not just bizarre. That's creepy.
It's one of those things that's creepy when you say it, but then when I dreamt it, it wasn't really creepy.
Well, I'm glad in the moment it didn't scare you.
No. But it's bizarre. So if anybody has any theories about what the nun thing on the porch saying that means.
Or the yellow curtain.
Or the yellow curtain and the girl. I don't know. It's just weird. Like, I go through periods where I remember my dreams, and then for a long time I don't remember them. And right now I'm in a period where I'm remembering my dreams a lot.
Because I have such horrible sleep patterns, I know I've slept if I can remember a dream. That's like how I gauge, did I sleep?
I never thought of that way.
Yeah.
Because then I must have fell deep
night.
asleep when I did go back to bed after peeing.
Yeah.
I'm just going to put it bluntly. I don't know. I don't know how else to put it.
I have multiple dreams a night.
But if anybody has any insight as to what that means, let me know.
Yeah. Let's analyze Kurt.
But we want to give shout outs to our newest strangers, and those are, I think it's Michael or Michael, Mikeyl. I think that's really...
I'd say Michael.
I think that's really cool. I like that spelling. Michael Lee Aaron Tackett, Holly Lorraine Oldham, Brittany Gorsigner, Jenny Wade, Hunter Lear, Pinecone Bleak March, which is a cool name if that's not a real name. I like that, Pinecone. Amber Bridges, Marianne Vadstrup Nielsen, Jody Bastarash, Brian Varvel, Crystal Bastarash, and Lisa Circus. Hi, Lisa. Lisa, my BFF Miranda that I talk about a lot, Lisa's her aunt. And when all the COVID stuff started happening, I was training Lisa on my machine at work on the weekends. So we were working together like all weekend, and she was a Stephen King fan too. So we, talked about Stephen King a little bit, but I didn't know she was into this stuff. And then one day she listened to she messaged me. She's like, I listened to your podcast, and she's been listening ever since. So she really likes it. So I think that's awesome. So thank you so much, Lisa.
I feel like if you're into Stephen King, you at least lean this way a little bit.
Yeah. But I gave her the Dark Tower books to read.
Oh, so good.
I know. So welcome aboard, Lisa.
Yeah,
Happy to have you. And welcome to the rest of the strangers. So thank you guys so much for joining. And do we have any housekeeping?
I don't think so.
I feel like I can tell that I'm subdued today, that I'm kind of like
You're way less
animated.
sure. You didn't bring up a banana hammock or
No, I
anything
didn't.
this episode.
I didn't.
It's
that must
early.
mean I'm
We're
more
only 10
subdued.
minutes in.
But I don't think we really have any
I
housekeeping.
can't think of anything.
You guys knocked it out of the park with these stories, with
Yeah.
giving us stories.
We usually have to beg. And
Yeah, and all of a sudden they just started all flooding in. So thank you guys so much for all of these stories. They're all amazing. So thank you.
And we got a postcard from
We
Heather.
did get a postcard from Heather.
But we don't know what Heather.
We're not sure what Heather that is.
But thank you, Heather.
Yes, thank you, Heather. I can't think of anything else.
Yesterday was a big, or was it the day before? A Bigfoot day. On the strangers
Yep,
Facebook page, everybody was
started
posting. I said, it feels
Bigfoot
like my
stuff.
birthday. This is awesome.
Yep. I
can't really think of any housekeeping, so we can move on to the taste test.
I can't think of.
This taste test that's been sitting on this table for like a year.
This has been sitting in the studio for months.
At least a year.
No.
When is Sophie's birthday? Didn't
No.
you say Sophie and Adam brought that?
No, they didn't bring it. I think
they sent it to us?
I
Okay.
think they did. I'm not 100% sure.
I feel like if they brought it with them when they were here, we would have tried it then. Okay.
I think they sent. I think
That's right, because Adam asked for our address at one point.
Yeah, and I think they
sent
sent us these jubes. You read that?
Juice.
It's weird.
Oh.
It's fun to actually play with and squeeze because it's just like this bag of gel and like gelish
Coconut gel. I hope you like
cubes.
coconut.
I love coconut.
Okay. It is a fibrous, cholesterol-free, and delicious dessert. Spend hours of fun munching these chewy, juicy cubes, or mix it with cocktails and other desserts to create your very own treats. This lychee, is that how you say it?
I think lychee
Flavored jubes is for those who prefer cool and refreshing taste.
or lychee. I don't know. I
Lychee?
know I love the
I don't
flavor
know.
of whatever it's called.
It's cholesterol-free, Kurt.
That's hours
No
of fun.
preservative.
I could see that being good in drinks and cocktails.
So I have to open this, right?
Yeah.
It's like a liquid.
Yeah.
Great.
don't put it by your
I'm
shirt.
moving the microphone. Leaked some jube juice.
Leak some lychee,
Ooh, come on.
some jube juice. Do you want my scissors? Oh, I don't have a scissors.
You didn't bring your
I have a knife.
baby multi-tool?
No, I lost it.
You lost it?
Yep.
How am I supposed to open stuff?
I have a knife if you want to use the...
Okay, hold on, I think I'm going to be wearing this shortly. Don't worry.
We need to invest in scissors. We just have a pair of scissors here.
I'm like really struggling with this. It's very juicy. Don't squeeze it, whatever you do.
Got it.
Okay.
I'm doing 3.
All right.
I hope I like it.
Yeah, me too.
Did you take a picture of it on the
Oh, shoot.
spoon?
I didn't even take a picture of the bag. I'm off my game today.
We are both off our game today. We apologize. So I'll come out in editing. Jubes.
Okay.
Wow, this was expensive.
Is it? How much is it?
$8.69.
Holy moly.
I know. Thank you, whoever sent this to us.
Okay, you ready?
Ready.
This is not good.
That is not the consistency.
I thought they were going to be like really soft and easy to chew. And they're like, God, I hope they're not like, they didn't go bad. Ugh.
Best before November 21st, 2020.
Oh, we're okay. I mean, I don't like them, but I think we're okay.
You know, it has a the fruit cocktail you get in cups. It has a consistency like when you get a stale pear.
Yes.
Or something.
But it's like you can't bite through it. It's weird. I spit mine out.
Did you?
I did. I'm gonna throw this away.
I swallowed mine. I'm gonna have some more. But it's a consistency of like when you eat a cup of mixed fruit and there's like a bad pear.
I have
or
a pear
something.
flavor too.
Yeah.
Which is weird. Oh, he just ate like 6 of them. And then he's making this face. Why would you do that?
I can't get over how.
That first bite is weird
Yeah.
because you're expecting them to be soft like a pear, but they're like not.
No, they're like.
I can't really even explain what that's like. I am not recommending these to our strangers. Just saying.
What do you give them out of 10?
4. Because they're edible.
I'll give them a 5 because they're not horrible.
You just keep shoveling them in now. I can't tell if you love them or hate them.
I can't tell either.
You
I
love
love
to
them or
hate
hate
them? I don't know.
They're just, the consistency is
It's
so weird.
It's really weird. I'm not getting hours of fun munching on those.
It's pardon me for saying this, but I feel like this is what biting into an eyeball would be like.
Oh, why did you put that in my head?
Well, don't you agree? Kind of.
Yeah. Oh, he just keeps eating them.
Can't stop for some reason.
Oh my god! I hope they agree with you.
We're gonna find out.
Oh boy. Did you check the list to make sure
I
there's
might have
not
to-
like hazelnut oil in there or something?
I'll have to go on my phone and Skype you from the toilet.
Oh my god.
Okay.
I think the sugar in these is perking Kurt up.
I'm gonna keep eating these because I do. I keep putting more.
You keep making this. Yeah. Every time you take a bite, you make this face like what?
Like you said, it's that first bite is so weird.
Oh man.
It comes up in one of our stories, but somebody said they skip over our taste test because they hate the sound of people eating.
I read that too. I do too. Isn't that weird? Like I subject people to the sound of me eating, and I can't stand
But
listening.
that
to
is
people eat.
usually when our reaction is. So I try to keep our reaction in there. I do edit out a lot of our
smacking
and chewing. But yeah.
Sherry gets a huge kick out of the sounds you make when you like something.
Everybody does.
That's it.
My friend Aaron sent me a video of his infant son. He gave him a piece of food and he was in his chair and he started rocking back and forth going, and he's like, are you sure this isn't your kid?
That's great.
All right, my last spoonful.
You're literally going to eat that whole bag.
I might.
Wow. Then you can drink the juice, the gel, or whatever that
It's
is.
coconut gel. Okay. Wait.
Kurt got a little boost. I got
weird.
completely turned off by that. Ugh.
It's weird. I got strangely turned on by it.
Oh, whoa. You didn't make the noise though.
No, it's not noise worthy. I mean,
Okay.
I like it,
And it turned you on.
but it's not.
Oh, okay. Ugh.
Okay.
I'll be fine if I never have that again. And there's no aftertaste, so
No,
you gave it a 5, I gave it a 4.
I'm gonna bump that up to a 6 because I am starting to.
It'll be a 10 by the
appreciate
end
it.
of the episode.
It will be. I'll be asking for more. Whoever sent us this, can you send us some more? But I think on to our main story. So I couldn't figure out what you were doing. Onto our main stories, which
go.
this is a listener stories episode.
Oh, okay.
Are these like, is there THC in here or something? All of a sudden we're all giggly.
We'll find out.
Okay,
We'll
this
kick
is
in
our
in like a
listener
half hour.
stories episode. And like I said, you guys knocked it out of the park with this. Thank
Yeah.
you so much for all these stories. We got a couple MP3s, which is awesome because
We got
love
more
getting
than...
those.
Oh, Coleman sent an MP3.
Yep, Coleman
okay.
and Bridget. And we got a lot of stories that people have sent in. So we're going to start with one from listener Sarah. Sarah says, "Hi, Kurt and Krista." Hi, Sarah.
Hey, Sarah.
"I have a synchronicity that I'd like to share. For the last few years, I've been finding nickels. I find them in innocuous places like in my car or on the sidewalk. Sometimes it'll be a lone nickel in the bottom of my purse, but I also find them in odd places that I simply can't explain. I found one on my bedroom floor after I had just left the room with my laundry, and I'm certain it wasn't there when I went in the first time. The strangest one, the one that sticks out the most, is the time I was at my friend's house for a cookout. I moved the chair I was sitting in to the middle of the backyard to watch some friends play lawn games. I looked down and noticed something silver partway in the dirt and dug a nickel out of the ground," which is weird. "I'm not entirely sure what that means. A Google search tells me that finding nickels is a sign to lighten up. I notice that I find them when I'm going through a period of change. Most recently, I found a single nickel on top of my dresser while cleaning my room so we could start the process of selling our condo. I'd like to think that it's a sign from my grandfather who passed away about 10 years ago. He was a coin collector, and I'd like to think it's his way of checking in on me to let me know that things will be okay." I think that's really sweet.
That's a good connection.
Anyway, I'd be interested to find out what you guys think. Does anyone else have things that they constantly find? Thanks, Sarah. I looked it up. This is me back
Okay.
to me. So thank you, Sarah. I looked it up, and a lot of the things say finding nickels does mean you're supposed to lighten up. One website said, quote, "Finding nickels means that you need to lighten up a little. By lightening up, you'll have more. For instance, the dime, half the weight, but twice the value." So So she asked if anybody has a sync item. Mine are the 1111s, but I know people
right.
that find feathers. People that find feathers everywhere. That's their sync item.
I have nothing like that.
My friend Luke has one that we'll talk about at the end of the episode. I think that's the last one I have on here. But he has like a specific sync thing.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
I think it's really cool.
I think it's cool that
I'm a
everybody
little
has
jealous.
these. And I like that. I think the tie-in with her grandfather being a coin collector and her finding nickels, I think that's a valid.
Totally.
I totally think that's what it is.
Yeah.
So
maybe when she's going through a change, it's his way of saying, "Hey, I'm here with you."
Yeah.
You don't have to be so stressed out.
Yes, exactly.
That's
so
pretty cool.
I think that's really cool. So thank you so much, Sarah, for sharing that with us. Yeah. And now one from listener Wanda. She says, "Hello, Krista and Kurt. Hi.
Hi, Wanda.
I love your podcast, even the banter, taste test, and other things that people complain about."
Thank you.
Thank you so much. She says, "I think those things make you relatable." And I agree.
I agree.
I agree. Keep it up. My favorite episodes are Missing 411 and Listener Stories. Honestly, Listener Stories are my favorite episodes in most pods that I listen to. I finally worked up the courage to submit one of my own stories. It's not super exciting, but it's something strange that did happen to me. Before I tell this story, I need to make two things clear. The first is that this story sounds like a cliche. I'm aware of that, so it's up to you if you want to believe it or not. The second thing is that although I am fascinated by the paranormal and believe that there are things that cannot be explained, I always look for a rational explanation first. Totally get that.
Mm-hmm. I do too.
I'm a baker, and that requires me to get up at stupid o'clock so I can be to work on time.
I read this one and I was giggling. Yeah.
I love that. Because I'm up so early, public transit isn't operating yet, and I don't drive, so I walk to work. It's only 2 kilometers or 1.3 miles. It takes me about 15 minutes. I enjoy the early morning walk. I find it relaxing. My route takes me past a pioneer burial ground. When the town was first settled, the burial ground was next to a church on the outskirts. As the town got bigger, the church was moved, but not the burial ground, and the town grew up around it. Now it's been fenced off, a commemorative plaque placed, and it's designated a historical site. It's mostly residential in this area, but on one side of the burial ground there is a small plaza, and across from it there is a store with a sizable parking lot. This is also the darkest part of my walk. There are streetlights at regular intervals along my route, but they seem dimmer near the plaza and the burial ground. There is only one light in the parking lot of the store. That's kind of creepy. Mm-hmm. One day in late fall of last year, I was up super early, as usual, and on my way to work. There had been a light dusting of snow overnight, and I noticed that my steps were the first to disturb it. As I got nearer to the burial ground, I could see someone ahead of me. Because of the poor lighting in this area, the person looked like a shadow. I could see someone was there but couldn't make out features. I didn't think much of it. I would sometimes see other early risers, usually someone walking their dog or getting in an early morning run. As I got closer still, I noticed that the person wasn't moving. This struck me as odd. I'm not the type to automatically think someone is up to no good, but I did start paying close attention. Maybe they stopped to reply to a text message or something. And then they were gone. One moment there was someone ahead of me, and then there wasn't. There was nowhere for this person to go. I didn't see them cross the street. They hadn't gone into the burial ground because I looked as I passed. They hadn't turned back the way they came. I still would have been able to see them ahead of me. There wasn't a side street they could have gone down. They were just gone. I didn't see anyone else for the rest of my walk that morning. Remember when I said my prints were the only ones in the snow? Once I got to work, I realized that the person there had left no prints. Mine really were the only ones.
That's really cool.
That is really cool. I still walk that route every day and haven't seen anything else strange, at least not near the burial ground. Keep up the good work. Wanda.
Nice.
Thank you so much,
yeah,
Wanda.
That's a good one.
That is a really good one.
I love the part about there being no footprints.
No,
that's really,
no.
That would totally creep me out.
I love that she says that she doesn't just jump to conclusions either.
Right, yeah.
So really good story. Thank you so much, Wanda.
Yeah.
Kind of creeps me out.
I love that name, Wanda.
I do too. But the thought of seeing somebody just standing there and not moving or doing anything creeps me out for some reason.
Especially if you're the only other person around.
Yeah.
Like, are they waiting for you to come closer?
Yep.
I'm paranoid, so that'd be my first thought.
Okay, and Krista is going to do the next story from an anonymous listener.
Mm-hmm. It's the longest one, I think.
I think it is.
Way to go, Kurt. All right. From anonymous
I didn't
listener,
do it on
yes.
purpose.
Uh-huh.
Whatever. I'm just going to eat my jubes.
Yeah, that's why, so you can eat more jubes. Okay. Just wanted to share my listeners' stories. I'd like to stay anonymous if that's okay. I'll change the names in this story. Bear with me on this one. If it doesn't make the air, no biggie. It's a bit long. Sorry. Enjoy. Let me know what you think. I'm not a writer. Ironically, quote unquote, Jenny is. I didn't get that.
I think Jenny's a character in the story.
We'll get to that, Krista, right?
Oh,
I
you just skirted me.
myself.
Oh,
My story is an 11:11 story meets Back to the Future. I just watched Back to the Future. It was on like Showtime or HBO.
haven't
And I
seen
caught
it
it
in
right at the
years.
beginning. Yeah. It was good. I guess my story starts back in a little Wisconsin town in the mid 90s. I was in high school and I started dating the first love of my life, Jenny. I fell head over heels for her. Big green, beautiful eyes, a smile that made me melt, a laugh that lit up a room. You never forget your first love. Jenny was a few years younger than me, and after 6 months, her parents didn't like her dating an older guy. Guess they were fine with it at first, but after a while didn't care for it. So we eventually broke up, but remained good friends, though my motives were to get her back.
nice.
Those motives were short-lived as her parents decided to pick up and move to Mississippi. Heartbroken, I drove down to see her. My first trip out of Wisconsin. My buddy tagged along and we went to see her. I was too late. She was seeing a new guy down there.
Oh, that
We
sucks.
right. We
I
stayed
feel
in-
you, dude.
Have you done that, Kurt?
Not driven to Mississippi, but
Gone
I-
after a girl who was taken by the time you...
yeah, I have.
That's a bummer. We stayed and visited for a few days but left early. That following fall, I moved to Appleton and went to the Tech. That's where I met Sandy. We dated for 2 years and then I left her. Sad about the situation, my same buddy took me down to Chicago for a weekend of fun. That Sunday night, we drove back. I was thinking about Jenny again. Haven't seen or heard from her in over 2 years. Just kind of missing her. My buddy points to the clock, 11:11. He rubs his finger across the display and says, "Make a wish."
Wow, I do that same thing. When I see 11:11 on my clock, I
You
rub my finger again.
Really?
That's really weird.
Do
Yeah.
you make a wish?
No.
I know people
I don't, but I touch it.
people on the Facebook page do make a wish when they see that.
I
Yeah,
know
I've
a lot
never
of
heard of
people
anyone
do,
touching
but
it.
it's weird that he said that because I
Yeah.
went through this and I don't remember him saying that, but I do touch it when I see 11:11.
So first thought in my mind was, I want to see Jenny. Never said it out loud, just kept it to myself. No more than 20 minutes later, we stopped at a gas station in Milwaukee for a soda. Or a pop if you're from up north. I walk in and see Jenny's mom, Nancy, in the gas station. Nancy, I said. "Oh, hi, how have you been?" she said. "Jenny is in the car if you want to say hi."
Wow.
That's kind of crazy.
It is.
I could not believe it. Went to see Jenny. Big hugs. "How are you?" "Oh my God." She gave me her number. She lives in Appleton too. She just moved back. "Let's get together." I couldn't believe my luck. Jenny was back. I call her shortly after. She tells me her boyfriend moved up to Wisconsin with her, but invited me over to visit them. I had met him on my previous visit to Mississippi, so I go to see them. Slightly awkward, but I was happy to have Jenny in my life one way or another. Eventually, her boyfriend had to work nights, so he up and leaves for work, leaving us alone. Trusting guy, I guess.
I would say.
We sit and talk for hours late into the night. We picked up right where we left off. Eventually, it was 2 a.m. and I had to go. Got up. She walked me to the door. A big, long hug. I feel like this is moving from PG-13 to like, what's the next one?
R.
Oh, R? Rated R?
It went from PG to PG-13.
Then we look into each other's eyes. Oh my God, I'm melting. Kiss her, my mind screamed. But my conscience said, that's not me. She has a boyfriend. Don't be that guy. Wait, do it right. I was at a crossroads and I went with my conscience. This is the Back to the Future moment. I'll explain later. I let her go and said goodbye and I'll see you again. This was the last time I saw Jenny in person. 2 weeks later, I met a girl named Tara. We date right away and hit it off. I never reached out to Jenny. Tara eventually introduces my friend to one of her coworkers. Those two get married, have 2 kids and adopted 2 more, and are happily together 20 years later.
Wow.
5 years later, Tara and I are living together. Things are rocky, but what relationship isn't? I had signed up on MySpace. Oh, remember MySpace?
I remember MySpace.
When you would go to someone's page and a song would play?
Yep.
Do you remember that?
Yep.
I had signed up on MySpace, and who do I see on there? Jenny. We become friends and start talking. Catching up on the last 5 years. She lived in Indiana now. 2 kids with her boyfriend from Mississippi, but he is no longer in the picture. I just said picture.
You just said picture.
He is no longer in the picture. This is hard work, Kurt. I don't know how you do this. Reading. Words are hard. Our chats are not flirty or anything like that in nature. Then out of the blue, she sends me a dirty survey with who, me, where on an elevator. You get the picture. I was like, wow, where did that come from? So I tell her about the last night I saw her and how I wanted to kiss her. She said, if you had kissed me that night, I would have... This is getting a little... I would have blanked your brains out that night.
Wow.
Did you read this before?
I thought I did. I don't remember the blanked.
Wow. Alrighty, you give me the dirty story. Thanks, Kurt. Her and her boyfriend were fighting like cats and dogs, and he was looking for a way out. Had I had kissed her, she would have left her boyfriend for me. My first love, I wouldn't have let her get away again. I would have married that girl as fast as I could. Instead, I'm in a rocky relationship with Tara. This was hard to digest. That one moment in time, kiss her or wait. It's like that day in Back to the Future, November 12th, 1955, where everything happened and changed history on that one date. Not only my life changed, her life changed. My buddy and his wife's life changed.
Yeah.
Kiss her, I get my first love back. Don't kiss her, I'm in a rocky relationship with Tara. Jenny has 2 kids with a deadbeat dad. My buddy meets the woman of his life, has 2 kids, adopts 2 more. It's not often you find the magnitude of one little decision of your life in your life. It's like the butterfly effect.
Yeah, exactly.
But part of me was mad. I did what I thought was right, respectful thing to do. You don't butter another man's biscuit. Oh my God. Yet I felt I ended up on the short end of the stick. This really bugged me. It went against everything I believed. Do good and good will come back to you. I wished selfishly I could go back and take the other road. While I continued dating Tara and eventually married her. Things were never great. We had our problems. Then my end of the deal came. After being told my wife could not get pregnant, she came home with a surprise, a positive pregnancy test.
Wow.
I was going to have a son. We never even planned for something like this, but it was the greatest blessing I've ever had. Not long after our son was born, my wife had a couple of affairs and we divorced. Working nights has its drawbacks. However, I'm a father of the most amazing 7-year-old boy and I wouldn't trade him for anything. 11/11 had put me on the right path. It just took a long time to see the big picture. That's cool. Jenny was where she was supposed to be as well. She met a nice guy, got married, and he adopted her 2 kids, and they had a third as well. It takes a real man to do something like that. Hats off to him. I'm still in touch on Facebook with her. She seems happy, and I'm happy for her. I had 1 son. Jenny had 3. My buddy and his wife had made 2, adopted 2. That's 6 kids born based off of that one moment.
Yeah.
3 marriages affected by it. How many lives were affected on that one moment in time? That 10-second window blows my mind. And how many moments in life do we have like that? For a long time, I wish I had kissed her that night. Wonder what life with Jenny would have been like. A second chance at your first love. I look back at my life now. Yeah, my marriage was rocky, but I wouldn't trade anything for my son. He is my whole world. He is why I'm here. If I knew then what I knew now, I would have walked away again. It worked out for everyone involved. Wow. Well, that's really cool.
That is.
That one gave
me goosebumps because that's the stuff I love is those moments where everything could change.
It's obviously a crossroads.
Yeah. And you never know what the
outcome
that's
would
like
have been.
the cheesy old saying that, some of God's greatest gift are unanswered prayers. When we pray for something and we don't get it, it's because
it's a country song.
It is by Garth Brooks.
Yeah.
I love Garth Brooks.
No, that's a really cool story.
Sometimes you don't know the ramifications of what you're wanting.
Right.
You don't know that something better that you're maybe meant for is coming down the road because you can't see that.
Yeah, in the thick of it, it felt like the worst thing that could happen, but it ended up being the best thing.
Yeah. No, I love that story. That's the kind of stuff
really cool.
and the 11/11 ties in there, and I love that. So just an awesome story. Thank you so much, anonymous listener. But you don't ever butter another man's biscuit.
Unless they ask you to, I guess.
Yeah. Some people are into having their biscuit buttered by more than one person. So whatever.
A little jam on the side.
A little bit of jam.
Alrighty then.
So love that story. Thank you so much. And that's the stuff that I almost feel like I spend more time thinking about what outcomes could have happened from something instead of focusing on the path I'm on. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So love that story. This next story is from listener Sophie. Sophie, we love you, Sophie.
Our Soph.
She was here for the Ouija board Hazozo episode. She says, from Sophie, hi to both of you. Hi, Sophie. I'm so proud of the work you are doing for the podcast. It's so good and has brightened my hour-long commute immensely. I'm proud to call you my friends, obviously, as well. You're the best. Oh, we love you, Sophie.
We love you.
So buckle in. This may be a long one. I was raised with a ghost story. My mom told of her grandmother, my great-grandmother, telling a story of her childhood. This was long ago. My great-grandma had been gone for about 20 years, and she was in her late 80s when she passed, so we're talking close to 100 years ago. As a child, she enjoyed staying with her relatives that lived in the still tiny town of Mellon, Wisconsin. I believe it was her aunt and uncle, but don't quote me. Their home was in the wilderness, literally miles from the nearest neighbor, and it was notoriously haunted. Every time she stayed, she slept downstairs with them and was warned, quote, "If you hear anything at night, just ignore it. Don't go upstairs." Creepy. This is because every night they heard things. Someone made a lot of noise in their kitchen. Upon rising, they would go to the kitchen to find place settings for two and tea from their own home half finished.
Come on.
Weird. The rumor was that you could go upstairs during the commotion and find the same scene, just a small tea party interrupted. There was never any sign of who was doing this, and a general consensus was that the intruder was a ghost. There's no way someone could have left the house without being seen.
Why would they break in just to make tea?
It's a fancy...
It's a British ghost.
It's a fancy
or
ghost.
British, burglar.
This went on for years, and as my mom tells it, the house became quite famous. The owners of the house simply went about their daily lives and ignored their nightly visitor. That is, until one morning there wasn't tea. Instead, all around their home was kerosene lanterns and spent matches. No footprints, no evidence of hoofprints, no reason to suspect any human had been there. Remember, this house was miles from any other dwelling. They dipped. As Kurt would say, "Deuces, I'm out." Upon moving, the house sat vacant. It had a reputation. No one ever moved in, and it was eventually boarded up and condemned. Eventually, it was razed. The only thing that still stands are part of the foundation. Meanwhile, nearly 100 years later, my best friend Amy and I formed the ghost hunting group South Shore Spirit Hunters, of which Kurt was once a guest star.
Nice.
Yeah, I went and did an investigation with them. We were small time, mostly one-trick ponies. Shout out to the now defunct Hex Bar, which is still super active. When I went to see Sophie, that's where we investigated. It was
Okay.
Hex, like the above floor
Apartments
of
or
Hex
whatever,
Bar.
or?
Yeah, it was empty. They were abandoned, but they would hear stuff and see stuff, so that's what we investigated. And it was nice because then you could go downstairs and have a beer during your
Right.
investigation.
Cap it off.
During a discussion with my mom about the group, she told me she was interested in joining an investigation. She suggested the small rural cemetery where my grandparents are laid to rest, then dropped a bombshell that she knew where the ghost house once stood, and it was close to the cemetery. I was thrilled. This is a family legend, and I couldn't believe she knew the actual location. So we packed our equipment and headed out. As ghost hunts go, it was a total dud. I got one questionable photo at the cemetery, but nothing that I would consider evidence. At the old brick foundation, there wasn't even a whisper of activity. It was a fun outing, though, and it was so amazing to see the actual location of a story that I had heard throughout my childhood.
So was this in Minnesota, did she say?
This was in Wisconsin.
Oh, Wisconsin.
Yeah,
so
'cause Hex-
Sophie
Hex-
grew up in Wisconsin.
Yeah, Hex
Okay.
Bar was in Ashland. When I went to
Okay.
see her, it was up in Ashland.
Is that like way
Way
northwest?
north.
Like
It's
near
way-
Superior?
It's like, yeah, it's
Okay.
like up way north towards.
West?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't remember if I told this, but when I drove to see her, I had to pee so bad. A lot of pee in this episode, but I had to pee so bad. And the only place that I saw was like it was a park, but they had like a outhouse, like an old fashioned outhouse. So I went in there, and you can imagine the smell for starters. But I had to pee, so I'm peeing. And then I drop my keys, and they hit the lid of the toilet, and they start dangling off like they're
my
going to
God.
drop into. You can't just stop once you start going, you know. So I'm like, don't fall, and I'm watching them, and it's like the key is hanging over the edge, and it's like wobbling. I'm like, don't fall in there, and they didn't fall.
They did or
Did
didn't?
not.
Didn't. Okay.
So I always
God.
think of that
Suspense.
I always think of that, and it's like, what would I have done? I would have probably got a stick and tried to fish him out
Something.
of there.
You should just keep one of those grabby things. in
Oh,
your-
I think Aaron's got one in his car for geocaching. I need a grabber. I need a grabby
grabber,
thing.
A grabby stick.
But yeah, I always think about that because it was kind of a long drive up there. But it was in Ashland. Ashland was so pretty. I've
Yeah,
never
it's
been
really
to that
beautiful
part
up
of the
there.
state before, but it was so
They've got some
pretty.
great waterfalls up there.
Then back to Sophie's story. She says, we packed up our stuff and my husband and I headed to the Twin Cities the next morning. Here's the part where I tell you a little about how I ghost hunt. I do not believe in taunting or mocking spirits. Good. I state very clearly that I am only there to collect any evidence and that I'm happy to hear what they have to say. I always make it crystal clear verbally that any entities are to stay put and they are absolutely not welcome to follow me home or attach to me in any way. The house we were living in is the definition of suburbia. Built in the 60s, it resembles every other house in the neighborhood, and it literally had zero creep factor. I never ever felt the presence of anything there. I sometimes do in other places. until that night. The night after we got home from visiting my parents, my whole family was awakened at 3 a.m. by a horrific electronic screeching. It was deafening, louder than a fire alarm. We all got up and realized that it was coming from our basement. The basement wasn't creepy at all. It was finished and pretty boring. The sound led us to my husband's home office, where we discovered that it was coming from a set of computer speakers. Now, these little speakers would never emit a sound that loud when connected to a computer. But here's the thing. They weren't connected to a computer. They weren't even connected to a power outlet. They were just completely unplugged from everything. As soon as we discovered this fact, the noise just stopped entirely. My husband is a huge skeptic. He told me, quote, "I don't know. Electronics do weird things. It's just feedback." But he could not and still cannot tell me how on earth this can happen when there's no power source. They were spare, unused parts, forgotten about and pushed aside. My confused family and I headed back upstairs and also realized that our garage door was open and the garage light was on. An inspection by my husband revealed nothing out there or amiss. Reluctantly, we headed back to bed. We never had another paranormal event there. My personal theory is that whatever remnant of my family's former tormentor was left at the ghost house attached itself to me just to show it could. I wonder if it knew that I was a descendant of its former hosts. That was my last ghost hunt. I swore off it immediately after this incident in my own non-haunted home. The sneak attack style of this incident unsettled me greatly.
Yeah, it would me too.
I hope I will keep this story in mind, though, because listening to the strange sessions sure has me itching to dust off my EMF detector sometimes. Much love. Stay strange always, Sophie.
Oh, that'd be so fun if she and Adam came and we did a ghost hunt.
I know.
How did you meet Sophie? You forgot?
I think she talked... No, I was thinking... I think she talked about it in the episode when she was here, that it was on the TAPS message board for the Ghost Hunters TV show.
Yeah.
Because I was on there, and I didn't post a lot on there, but I was on there, and I saw that somebody else in Wisconsin was, I think, looking to put together a group or was interested in it. And she said I was like the only nice person that wrote back to her. She said everyone else was creepy or a jerk. And she said I was the nice person. So her and I just became close through there.
That's cool.
You know, and considering that we've only been together twice in person, that time I went to Ashland and when she was here for the podcast, she is one of the key people in my life. Mm-hmm. I honestly know that without a doubt, that she is one of those people that...
She's such a genuine, sincere person.
She was meant to be in my life and I was meant to be in hers, and we just agree with that. Mm-hmm. You know, she's one of my very best friends and I love her to death.
That's awesome.
So, but yeah, it was just on the Ghost Hunters message board. So yeah, thank you so much, Sophie. I remember her telling me this story, and I don't know what would cause a computer speaker to screech without a power source.
Yeah.
Just sitting in a box.
I'm not a techie person to begin with.
I'm not either.
But I don't know.
And, you know, pair that with the garage door being open and the light being on.
I wouldn't be able to sleep.
No, because Sophie...
I'm paranoid of like people breaking
Sophie
in.
is very worried about things attaching.
I would be too.
You know, Natalie, when I was dating Natalie, she thought that's what happened maybe with our apartment.
Something
is that
came home
something
with you?
From a ghost investigation? It's possible, because, you know, we were never real clear with our intentions that nothing attaches to us. We would just go in. I think a couple times we tried, you know, saying do not.
I remember doing it. I also remember being very clear about you cannot touch me. I don't want to be touched.
That was to me.
Because Kurt he gets a little handsy
during investigation. But no, but there's a lot of groups that are like real clear with that. They do ceremonies
probably
where
could
it's
have
like,
been clearer.
because we really weren't. We're like, you know what? Don't touch me or come home with me. You know, but I totally kind of agree with Sophie that maybe this thing was saying, oh, you don't want me to attach itself to you? I'll maybe come home with you just to show you that I can do it. Yeah.
But then the activity stopped.
Yeah.
So that's good.
So awesome story. Thank you so much, Sophie. Miss you and Adam. Want you guys to come back sometime. Yeah, you got to come back. They keep wanting me to drive to see them, but I'm just such a chicken about driving long distances with my car.
And having to pee.
Yeah.
You could rent a car.
I know. I've thought about it. I thought about like
it's pretty reasonable.
I thought about taking a Greyhound bus because I've always wanted to take like a long bus trip, but then I hear how horrible they are.
Hostage then, you know.
You kind of are.
Yeah.
But I've always wanted to do that.
I'd like to take a train trip.
Yeah, I would too. I'd like to do that too. But, you know, I have this weird thing with, like, I would love to travel the old Route 66.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
You know, but I don't know. I'm just such a chicken about driving. So thank you so much, Sophie. And next we have an MP3 from Bridget.
Okay.
Hey guys, this is Bridget. I am a fellow stranger, and I also host my own podcast called My Best Vintage Life Podcast. And I thought I would share my story with you today as part of the listener stories. And what really inspired me to want to tell you this is Kurt and Krista's recent episode on synchronicities. And I have a really cool personal one to tell you guys. I'll try not to get emotional, but I can't promise. So I used to play Scrabble a lot with my ex-boyfriend's mom, and I spent a lot of time with her after my mom passed away. My mom passed away in May of 2009 from cancer, and she and I would play Scrabble a lot, my ex-boyfriend's mom and I. And obviously, you know the rules of Scrabble. You know how many tiles. You get 7 tiles at a time. Well, we were playing a game and she just had this kind of like look on her face like she had seen a ghost, and she kind of flipped her board around so I could see her letters, and they spelled out my mom's name, which was Noelle, Noel, like the Christmas version of Noel, not the more, Noelle. So it said Noel and then God, which was pretty crazy. And I kind of just sat there for a few minutes and didn't really know what to say. I grew up in an extremely devout Catholic family, probably pretty similar to Krista's upbringing from what I've heard her say. And my relationship with religion has been really a weird one since my mom died. But in that moment, it was just crazy. Those combination of letters, I just didn't expect it. And obviously, it was hitting me at a time when the wound of losing my mom was still very fresh. So it did make me feel better. So this is where it gets kind of even weirder, is I went out to my Jeep Wrangler and I had a picture. It was a photo booth picture, like the old school ones that actually they were on like the good film. And it was of my mom, my brother, and I. And I had it kind of tucked in the like partition that is on the dash, like where the odometer is, kind of tucked in there. And whatever reason, it fell out and fell onto the floor, the driver's side floor. And when I picked the picture up, well, first off, it was face down, so it was the back of the picture. But when I picked it up, on the back was the day, that exact day that we were playing that Scrabble game. It was that date, but in 1990. I think it was June 26th. And I don't know, it was just all too much for me at that point in time. And it still kind of is when I think about it. But to me, it was a synchronicity. And it was also kind of, I felt like a good message from my mom. And I carry that memory with me even now. So that's my story. I hope I didn't make anybody too upset, but just a nice synchronicity that isn't, some of them are a little on the creepier side or just the weird side, but this one I felt to me was more heartwarming. So thanks for listening.
Wow, thank you, Bridget.
Yeah.
I admit that I got a little teared up when I listened to it the first time.
I know. I saw in the message she left that she said she might get emotional, and I'm like, I'm going to listen to this before the show.
Yeah.
And it totally got me too.
Bridget and I had talked about our moms passing away and stuff, so it's hard. So I really appreciate her sending that.
Yeah, and kind of burying her soul like that.
Yeah, so thank you so
Really
much,
sweet.
Bridget.
I love that
and that's
story,
the thing,
though.
is that synchronicities aren't necessarily just
Creepy
or freaky. A lot of them, I think, are meant to comfort us when we need to be comforted.
We have another story like that coming later, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, we do. Yeah.
That's very cool.
But I totally think that. I totally think this was her mom's way of kind of comforting her to say that things are okay.
Mm-hmm. It was very pointed. Like, to get Noelle and the word God, the way she's, that's just so specific.
Yeah. And I think that happens a lot, and I think a lot of people write it off as coincidence when they get a synchronicity that's someone that's passed, just saying, "Hey, I'm here with you."
I think you kind of have to have your mind open to receive that.
You do.
Stuff.
So I totally love that story. Thank you so much, Bridget. We love you.
We love you, and happy birthday! Her birthday was just a couple days ago.
Happy birthday. Yeah, I would be. I've said that, like, when I die, I don't want to be the creepy ghost that makes noise.
You're not going to haunt me.
I'm not going to haunt you, but I would like to be able to
Send
give you
me a message.
synchronicities that you're like, oh my God, Kurt's turtly here. Kurt's totally here.
Well, maybe I'll see turtles.
Maybe I love turtles. Turtles and owls are my favorite animals.
That's funny. Turtles and owls. Oh, yeah, you love owls.
Yeah.
You and Natalie used to go do something with owls,
Yeah, we used to
right?
get the owls out of the nets at Woodland Dunes, the nature center. They would track owls, so they would catch owls. They're little. They're called saw-whet. They're little saw-whet owls, and in fall, 3 times a night, they have people go out at 10 o'clock, at midnight, and at 2 in the morning to go out to these nets that are out in these woods to get owls out of the nets and then put them in a box and put them in the barn so that they can tag them the next morning to monitor their flight patterns and stuff.
So what time did you guys go?
10.
Okay.
The one time
You weren't
the
doing
one
the
time
2 a.m.
I went, the one time I went at midnight.
You went by yourself, right?
After Natalie and I broke up, because I think Natalie and I had planned to go this one day at midnight, and then we broke up, and I went out. It was Halloween. It was the Halloween night. I went out at midnight by myself on these trails out in the dark woods with a flashlight to get these owls out of the nets. But it was so, I think I have pictures somewhere of them, but they're so stinking cute. And it's funny because they're in the net hanging upside down and they're just
like
clacking.
waiting.
They're clacking their
Oh,
beaks. They're so
Sure,
mad.
I would be too.
They're so mad. And then when you grab them and you're holding them in your hand, they're just looking at you and blinking their eyes at you. And they're just so cute.
Cute little owl eyes.
The only thing Natalie found out the hard way is if you're holding one like that in your hand, don't point at it because it's going to perch on your finger and it hurts when it digs it digs with its claws to perch on your finger. But they're just the cutest little
or
things.
have a glove on or something.
Yeah.
Cute.
But yeah, owls and turtles are my favorite animals. Like I said, I get a lot of people have given me turtle figurines and owl figurines. And I think I told you I made the mistake once of saying how much I had the hots for the Little Mermaid. Oh, no. And then my home is filled with little mermaid things that people have given me.
Yeah.
I have a Little Mermaid placemat on my table. I have a Little Mermaid keychain. So
Nothing wrong with a 50-year-old man.
no,
Little Mermaid paraphernalia
I feel like
around
I should
your house.
go around and introduce myself to my neighbors.
I'm living here within 20 feet of
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah. Okay.
Next. Oh, this is your story from Aaron.
So I have some visual aids here that may help you. So technically this is from Aaron, but it's really more of a collaboration because I basically had to pry this out of him.
So it was a forced confession?
Yes, it was. And then
like
he
waterboarding? Did you waterboard
No,
him?
well, he's too far away for that.
Oh.
And then he ends up giving it to me in like short, somewhat out of order bits and pieces mixed with these aerial shots, which is helpful. Thank you for that. Mixed with a portion that I had to pull from a comment he left on our Rendlesham Forest episode. So at this point, I'm basically like...
It is right by Woodbridge.
Yeah, it's really close. Yeah.
That's going back to our Rendlesham Forest episode.
So I said at this point, I'm basically like his personal secretary. I'm like piecing together important correspondence based on like handwritten Post-it notes. So he's not paying me or anything. Okay, so I told him I'd have to shame him just a little bit for making me work.
You got to do what you got to do.
Because we know I don't like working. So the first incident happened at an ancient Saxon Viking burial mound in Woodbridge called Sutton Hoo. It's the site of, and I had to do research too. Hello.
Wow.
It's the site of 2 early medieval cemeteries dated between the 6th and 7th centuries. The site contains multiple mounds, which, depending on the location or purpose, held the remains of like either the extremely wealthy or even people who had been executed and buried there. There was even a ship burial that was discovered in the 1930s.
Wow.
So the site has some pretty serious history, not only in terms of how ancient it is, but also the just vast number and variety of people who were laid to rest there. So he was walking through the mounds with 2 friends when they were, I'm assuming, teenagers and probably old enough to know better. I'm guessing you're not supposed to walk around on these things.
Probably not.
I think he said it was between midnight and 1 a.m. If you look at the photo, so I believe they had been on this one mound, the one with the yellow circle, and then they were doing some stargazing, and you can see the area with the stones with the blue circle is kind of the next mound over. And he said as they were walking away from the area in yellow, his 2 friends were in front of him, and he had his flashlight trained on them, so he knows that they were in front of them and they didn't do this. He said that he heard a stone hit the ground right behind him. So I don't know if he's like assuming the stone came from that next area over, which would seem like a really long way for a stone to be thrown.
Not necessarily.
It's hard to tell like what the scale is and how far apart they are.
I'm thinking it's not that far.
But I'm guessing that was a, hey, stop walking around in here. You're being disrespectful.
Because this looks like a really out of the way, like nothing around you place.
Right.
Like nobody else would be out there.
When you can see on that bigger like map where that is.
Yeah. Like there would be nobody else out there that would do that.
I'm assuming there was nobody else out there. Yeah. So that seemed a little deliberate and creepy,
Yeah.
and hopefully sent a message. So the second incident happened a couple of months later, and that's that where he circles where his, the blue.
Okay.
It happened at his house. I'm combining what I pulled from the comment and also what he gave me a few weeks ago, but he was in his back garden, also known as a yard, looking up and watching satellites on their straight line orbits when he noticed a light that was brighter than the others. In his comment, he said it was a hazy green and pink aura-covered triangle that moved over the nearby houses, but at a height. So I'm thinking not necessarily like hovering low over the houses, far enough away
Yeah.
to be like, is that a satellite? But close enough to see detail.
So are we talking like a Phoenix Lights triangular
He
ship?
didn't really go into how big it was.
But I'm guessing that's what he
definitely
means by a triangle. Is
Yeah.
that it's like the Phoenix Lights?
I think so. So he said it was zigzagging over different locations quite fast, completely unlike a satellite would move. And then it stopped for a while before shooting off at double the speed of a satellite. So from what I can tell, his house where he lived is like 10 minutes or 10 miles, I guess, from Rendlesham Forest.
Yeah, it's like
that's the UFO
according
incident
to this,
from
this is like right by it.
Yeah, so it doesn't really surprise me that he would have a UFO sighting.
But that's
there,
cool.
So. Yeah.
Like Rendlesham's Forest, it wasn't just that one sighting. I mean, there's a ton of UFO sightings near Rendlesham. So that's really cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I think it would be so cool to live in a place that has such a long history. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of seeing UFOs and stuff
Well, no,
like that.
just like the ancient...
Oh, the mounds? Like the mounds?
anything like
Yeah.
that. We have nothing like that here, you know?
Well, we have
Not that
Indian
goes
mounds.
by-
We have Indian mounds and stuff in Sheboygan.
It goes back that far, though.
Not that far.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I would love to see some of those old mounds like that. I think that would be cool. But also, you got to figure that they're super haunted.
Right.
I don't know why necessarily that they would be any more haunted than anything else, but
I think that...
to me, they always seem like they would be more haunted.
Well, and back in the day, I feel like people came to really violent ends.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So
and
I could see...
really felt that their spirit would linger.
Yeah.
So cool. Awesome story. I'm glad Krista coerced that out of you. Thanks, Aaron.
Yeah, thanks, Aaron.
You had the hardest story to do this one. You had to actually like force it and put
I
stuff
had to
together.
do the work.
I just had to
I'm his editor and his personal
I just had to copy and
secretary.
paste stuff from her email.
Right.
Our next story is another from Anonymous. Hi, Kurt and Krista. Love the podcast. Thank you, Anonymous. I'm not sure if y'all want to, she's got to be Southern,
Y'all.
Southern Anonymous. I'm not sure if y'all want to use this on the show, but if so, please keep me anonymous. Sorry, this is kind of long. You don't need to use this intro backstory unless you think it will help with the story. I'm just going to read the whole thing.
I read it. It's worth it.
My husband and I were both active duty Air Force and stationed in Eilerson.
Thank you for your service.
Yeah, she says, it looks like Elison, but she said the first E is pronounced as an I, so Eilerson. Back in 2001, when my sighting took place, we lived off base in the little town of North Pole, Alaska, which is about halfway between Eilerson Air Force Base and Fairbanks, Alaska. I wonder if that's the actual North Pole. I don't think so, but I think there's just a town called North Pole. My husband worked at range maintenance, and he would work on the range, rebuilding it in Delta Junction, which was about 1.5 hours from our home. He would work 3 weeks on, 1 week off, so during his time working, I'd be home alone after work and at night with our 11-month-old son. In Alaska, in the winter, it's dark when you leave the house for work, and it's dark before you get home during a normal 7:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. workday. We have that a little while here, but not long. But yeah, my sighting took place during the winter of 2001, probably around November or December. We lived in a duplex, and during this time, the other unit was unoccupied as the previous tenants had just moved out. My husband was working on the range, so it was just myself and our son at home. It was late afternoon, early evening when I saw it. Our son was asleep in the crib in his room, which is at the far end of the hallway. I was on the couch watching TV, and from the couch I could see the entrance to our bedroom and the entrance to the hallway. The lights in the hallway were off, but the entrance was lit up from the lights in the living room. While watching TV, out of the corner of my eye, I saw a dark figure at the entrance of the hallway, so I looked towards it. What I saw was a dark, solid black figure with a hat, a long trench coat, and boots on. Yeesh, another hat, man.
Mm-hmm.
The hat looked like a cowboy hat, and the trench coat went all the way down to about mid-calf. It was solid black, and it was not facing me, but facing my son's room at the end of the hallway, so I had a side view of it. Yikes. I don't like that. When looking at it, it headed down the hallway towards our son's room where he was sleeping. It didn't walk, but seemed to float. I was scared to death, but had to check on our son, so I went to the hallway to see if it was still there. It was not there, so I walked into our son's room praying that it was not in there. Thankfully, it was gone. I don't know if it made it to our son's room, but he was still asleep and did not seem disturbed at all. I picked him up and took him back into the living room with me. I called my husband, hysterically crying and scared to death, and told him what I saw. I don't know if he truly believed me because he's a skeptic. That night, my son and I slept in the living room with all the lights on. I didn't have any other experiences in a duplex other than the occasional orb or smoke in pictures, and no one in our house smoked. So I don't know exactly what to make of the pictures or my sighting. It wasn't until years later that I heard about other sightings of a man in a hat and a long coat. I saw him again a few years ago in a new house we had bought, but those are the only 2 sightings that I've had of him. Well, I have another sighting of a lady in a Victorian-era white dress that myself, my sisters, and my brother saw, so I may write in with that one later on. Take care, Anonymous.
I find it interesting that the hat man she sees is appropriate for the state she's living in, where everybody wears cowboy hats.
Yeah, but I just can't get past the fact that people that don't know the hat man is a thing see the hat man and then find out that a lot of people see this thing. I mean, that fascinates me. That's one of the most fascinating to me paranormal things that I can think of.
The hat always changes too. I mean, there's like the bolo style, there's the top hat, and then this isn't the first time I've heard cowboy hat.
No, and Rhonda that's been on the episode, her son Devin sees this hat man figure a lot. And he always wants to come on the podcast, and then I always forget to have him come on the podcast. So one of these next episodes, we have to have Devin come on. I think Brittany wants to come on, too.
Yeah, she's had experiences, too. So
yeah, they both have.
We should get them both on at the same time.
Yeah, we should.
And then Mark and Rhonda will be jealous. So then we'll have to have like 10 people on our show.
Put 2 tables together.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a good story.
Yeah, that's so creepy.
Hallway stuff creeps me out.
Yeah.
It really does.
I mean, it could have just been the ghost of a cowboy who lived in the area, but I don't know.
I'm not buying that. I think the Hat Man is a thing.
Oh, I do too.
I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's a demonic thing. I don't know. I don't know, but so many people see this thing.
It's so strange that it's such a common thing. Yeah.
So thank you so much for the story. That was really good.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to do this one, then you can do the one after because it's small.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. This next one is from Stranger Berlin, Berlyn, which I think is such a cool name.
Yeah.
Hi, Kurt and Krista. Just wanted to start this off by saying that I love your podcast. Thank you.
Thank you.
The story I'm writing in with today is not mine, but my mom's story. I have never experienced anything paranormal myself, and I hope not to. Sometimes I think people should, because it really opens your eyes to... But it's also scary as hell, so I totally get people not wanting it. Yeah. But it makes you question... It can really make you question everything.
Yeah. It definitely...
it's one thing to hear these stories, but it's another thing to actually experience something for yourself.
Right, because A, it makes you question everything you ever believed in, and B, it makes you start wondering, well, what the heck else is out there, and what does it all mean?
Yep. My mom's story starts in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, where she was nannying for 2 young girls. The parents of the 2 kids were very wealthy and had bought a huge 4-story house not long before my mom moved in. This house was just one of many other old houses on the street. Most were built in the early 1900s. She had a variety of weird experiences, but one of the stories that really creeps me out is her experience one night while watching the kids. My mom was in her room when she heard the door to one of the kids' rooms slam shut. She went into the room, and one of the kids was standing in her crib, wide-eyed. She told her mom, quote, "A mean old lady slammed my door," and then she described the lady to my mom as an old lady with blue hair, which was probably gray but looked blue to her, and who was wearing an old-style dress. It's so weird when kids bring up something that specific, you know.
It's someone with, it
like
really
the blue
specific.
hair. Like an older lady's going to have grayish blue, everybody calls them blue hairs.
Right,
but
because actually they can have a blue tint.
The fact that this kid was in a crib and was still that young.
And described that.
Yeah. Is like, wow, that's kind of fascinating. The next day, my mom was bouncing the other kid on her lap when she stopped. The kid had a look of terror on her face. My mom asked her what was wrong, and she told her, quote, "An old lady is making faces at me through the window." I don't like this old lady.
No.
Now, keep in mind that this is not the kid that first saw this old lady, and both of them were under 4 years old. This little girl described the old lady almost exactly like her sister did, blue hair and all. My mom turned to look at where the lady was, but couldn't see anything. In the time that my mom was at this house, only the kids saw the old lady. One of her last strange experiences happened when she had a friend sleeping over. They were laying in bed when they heard a little girl laughing down the hall from the room. They were the only ones in the house. Krista's shaking her head. Krista's like, nope, to the laughing, no laughing kids. The friend was freaked out by the laughing, but at this point, my mom was used to the paranormal activity, so she tried to reassure her that it would stop soon. Not long after the laughing stopped, the downstairs erupted with noise. They could hear dishes clanking, laughing, and people talking. My mom described it as what she said a large dinner party would sound like. Based on the house's size and multiple kitchens, she imagined that the house's early days, it saw a lot of parties. Just a few minutes later, the noises stopped and the house was quiet. That's so weird to me.
Yeah.
That's almost like a residual haunting, where it's not an active haunting, but it's replaying a clip of something in the past.
That'd be cool. I'd like to get stuck at a dinner party.
Oh, I would too.
That's a good way to go.
These are only 2 stories in the many that my mom has from this house. My mom only lived in this house for 4 months, and I am surprised by the amount of activity this house had. During her time there, she tried telling the parents of the kids about the paranormal activity, but they never believed her. They rarely spent any time at that house anyway. A year or 2 ago, my mom was telling me about this house, and we decided to look up the address. Turns out the street this house is on is one of the most haunted streets in Philadelphia, and it's said that the Headless Horseman rides in this area. Sorry if this story is too long or confusing, but I thought you would both be interested in these events. It would be super cool if you read this on the podcast, but I would also be happy to just know that you have read it. Thank you, nice. Stay Strange, Berlin. Thank you so much, Berlin. Yeah, the old lady stuff.
The Headless Horseman, where did that originate?
I don't know. I mean, according to this, Philadelphia, it was
Maybe
in the,
there
it was
are
in the
several Headless
There might
Horsemen.
be. That's an interesting one. Like, I never really think about the Headless Horseman stuff. Maybe that's something we'd have to look up for a future mini mystery, to look up where the Headless Horseman stuff came from. I always think of like Scooby-Doo.
Oh,
you know, the Headless Horseman. Yeah,
I think Johnny Depp, Sleepy Hollow, the movie Sleepy Hollow.
Yep. But yeah, you got creepy old ladies, mean old ladies, kids giggling,
stuff and giggling down the hall. Nope.
Dinner
Even
parties.
though we got to get a kid giggling as an EVP once.
Yeah, at Elsing's secondhand shop. And what's cool about that is that people have seen the ghost of this little girl there, and it sounds like a little girl giggling. Yeah, I forgot about that. So thank you so much, Berlin. That's an awesome story. But
nope,
giggling kids.
I'm just noping to all of it.
No, but the fact that both kids brought
on
up this
separate
old
occasions
lady,
brought up the old lady in different areas of the house. Yeah, I wonder if they just never said anything to their parents.
I don't know.
That's weird. Hi guys, this is Jana. Were you going to intro it?
I was.
Okay, go ahead.
Krista's going to read the next story from Jana.
It seemed pretty obvious. I'm just kidding. Hi guys, this is Jana. I'm a member of the Facebook group and I look forward to every episode you post. My story happened when I lived in Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania, a smaller town near Harrisburg, the capital. I love
20s. Pennsylvania. I dated a girl that lived in a suburb of Philadelphia, and I just really liked Pennsylvania.
How did you date? It was like an
internet thing.
Oh, okay.
This was back when
you could date people online.
Yeah. Yep.
How did you go on dates online?
You just talked.
Okay.
She came here a couple times. I went there a couple times.
Oh, okay. So you actually did meet each other.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
That was Cindy.
But we digress. Kurt's love life. I have never seen a ghost or a spirit, but I feel things all the time. I can feel energy, and whether it's dark or light, I can feel a vibe in a room, stuff like that. There was a particular graveyard that I drove past often, and I didn't like it. Other graveyards didn't feel alive and evil, but this one did. When I drove past it, I felt like dark things perked up and looked at me. But it was on a main road, so I had to drive past it a lot. One night I was driving home and I had just passed that graveyard when I had a feeling that something dark was in my back seat.
Nope. Krista's like, nope.
Can I nope the story I'm reading?
I know when I see Krista's head start shaking, she's not into it.
That's like a fear of mine, is looking in the rearview mirror and seeing something behind me. Like an actual person would be pretty awful too.
When we were in high school, we were at a friend's party, and our friend, oh God, I don't remember who it was, Lynn, got into her car. She was leaving, so she was going to drive home. So me and another guy, Jeff, climbed into her back seat, and we were going to wait until she was halfway home, and then we were going to reach up and start running our hand through her hair.
Oh my God!
And she saw us, or somebody knew we went in there, and they were laughing, so she figured out something was going on. And
so
it's
the joke was on you.
It's like, God, what if we would have done that? I mean, that's horrible.
Yeah.
Like looking back, like that time, it was funny when you're high school kids.
Sure.
But looking back, it was like, oh my God. So I'm glad we didn't do that. Okay, go on. I digressed.
So she had a feeling that something dark was in her backseat. I told it that it had to leave, that it wasn't welcome in my car. I visualized white light pushing it out of my car, and I didn't feel the dark energy anymore. So I drove home and went about my life. About a week later, my roommate complained to me that she wasn't sleeping well because she was having spooky dreams for the past week. She said she felt like she was awake but didn't know if it was real or a dream. A dark, shadowy figure would stand beside her bed and look at her.
Oh,
Sounds
wow.
like your dream that you just had last night.
Yeah.
It looked like a man and wore some kind of dark cloak and a black top hat. We have a second hat man story. I said, oh my God, I might have brought that home from the graveyard with me. I told her what had happened a week earlier, and we decided it was possible this thing had followed me home that night. So we looked up what to do to get spirits out of the house in a couple of books. This was before the internet. We ended up anointing every entrance and exit of our townhouse with oil, saging every room, and telling the bad guy he had to vacate. I also did another visualization of white light cleansing the house. My roommate never had another dream of the creepy hat man again. And to this day, if I drive past that graveyard, I visualize white energy surrounding my car. I haven't had any more hitchhikers that I'm aware of. Thanks, guys. Keep up the good work. Jenna.
That is weird.
Jenna.
Yeah, that is weird that it happened after she felt like there was something
in her car.
Yeah.
Something hitchhiked. It hitched a ride home with her.
That's creepy. Nope. Krista's noping.
No.
Noping on that one. Thank you so much, Jana.
Yes, thank you.
Check her back seat when we get in the car.
Yep.
After we leave here.
Nothing but dog hair back there.
This next one is from listener Amanda. She says, hey guys, I've been listening to your podcast for a while now and love it, except I have to skip the taste test parts. LOL. What's the word for when you can't stand eating noises? Totally understand.
It's normal. That's
totally
what the word
understand.
is.
Totally understand. I'll do a better job of trying to edit those out.
Anyways.
Anyways.
At least the smacking.
Yeah, at least the smacking. I try to edit the smacking out, but I leave my my foodgasms, as other people call them.
Foodgasms.
Anyways, I saw y'all, yes, I'm from Texas, post on the Facebook page about listener stories, so I thought I'd share a few of mine. Growing up in a haunted house. I'll preface this by saying I didn't like my house growing up. There was some weird stuff. She didn't use the word stuff. There was some weird stuff that happened there. And these are just some of the highlights. We lived off a highway, but there were houses all along the highway and around us, so it's not like we were isolated by the woods. There was a big field behind our house and a rock quarry a few miles behind all of that. I don't know the history of the house, but it was built in the 60s or 70s, so not super old. As far as I know, no one had died in the house, but these experiences were so random that it didn't seem like one ghost just hanging around. And this reminds me of like the stuff that happened in the house where I was a kid, because that was like a new house. Nobody would have lived there previously and died.
But you wonder what was on the land before.
Yeah. Yep. When I was a teenager, like 13 or 14, I had rearranged my room and started having experiences. It lasted for a few weeks, and then I put everything back the way it had been, and so it mostly stopped. So one experience, I was laying in my bed trying to fall asleep. All of a sudden, I felt what felt like someone under the bed kicking up their legs and kicking my mattress up.
So
WTF.
Nope stories on here.
Krista's, you're going to hurt your neck shaking your head with all
right?
this stuff. WTF. I couldn't move. Too scared. That is creepy. Yuck.
What would you do?
I don't know. The bed's
Something's
the bed's your
literally
safe.
kicking your bed.
The bed's your safe place. So
Tuck your legs in.
Yeah,
and
tuck your legs in.
You're like in a cocoon at that point. You got to have your head under the covers too, though.
I was sitting on the side of the bed and talking on the phone. I had my feet on the side bed rail and felt a hand grab my ankle.
No,
Come
on.
I shot off my bed and ran into the living room terrified. This is from my brother in the same house growing up. So one night he was up late, as always, talking on the phone to his BFF. It was probably midnight or later. We lived in a house that was right off a highway in between two towns. So he's talking on the phone and he looks out his bedroom window, which faces the highway, and he sees 4 people walking single file along the shoulder of the highway towards our house. They walk down our driveway and up to the front door. They knock a few times and wait like 5 or so minutes and then knock again. He doesn't move or answer because weird. They turn and walk away, single file back up our driveway and down the shoulder of the highway. He said it was so weird. I asked him if he thought it could be black-eyed kids, but he didn't think so. He said he didn't see where they came from or if they had a broken down car. Sometimes we'd have people break down or get in an accident, they'd ask to use the phone. That was normal. But midnight, knocking on the door, not saying anything, being creepy, that's not the norm. So there's that. There's something about the single file
that is
creeps
weird.
me out.
It does have sort of a Black Eyed Kids feel to it.
It does. It totally does. When I was in my early 20s, I was living at home with my parents. They had already left for work, so it was just me. It's morning and I'm sleeping. My alarm on my iPhone goes off and I roll over to turn it off, and then I'd usually sleep for like another 5 more minutes and get up. This morning, right after I turned my alarm off, I heard a very scruffy male voice say, "That looks fancy." Krista and I were both like, And I thought, how weird of a thing to dream. I don't think that was a dream because I'm actually awake. I think there was an actual voice. Someone must be watching me and noticed my phone. And then, of course, I acted like it was nothing and got up and got ready. What else was I going to do? Kind of used to the spooks at this point in life. LOL. That's creepy.
It's almost like whatever is there is from a different era.
Yeah.
And
saying,
like,
that
well,
looks
that's
fancy.
a fancy phone or whatever.
A few recent ones, different house, different town. A couple years ago, our TV in our bedroom turned on by itself in the middle of the night. I thought we had left a remote in the bed and maybe had rolled on top of it. Nope, it was in the bedside drawer. I believe that this was the first experiences I really had in our home here, and we've been here almost 10 years now. I did get a oogie feeling in my son's room when he was a baby. He's 4 now. I just felt a negative energy in a corner of a room/closet area. There's a lot of people that it's always a corner of a room where a lot of people notice like a negative, or it's like cold,
specifically
in a corner of a room. I did speak up one day and told it to leave. I guess that worked because I haven't felt that particular energy since then. Also, we built this house in a new development, so we're its first owners. Again, I don't know the history of the land, but it's close to a highway, and ironically, an old rock quarry is a few miles away. There's also a lake nearby. I don't know if that has anything to do with it. I haven't talked to any neighbors about this kind of thing. It just may be a me thing instead of an area thing. Recently, maybe about 8 months ago, after everyone was asleep, I was sitting in the living room crocheting and watching TV like I normally do. I have a couple photo albums standing up next to each other inside a cubby on our TV cabinet. So I'm sitting in the recliner in the living room enjoying my alone time, and then one of the photo albums just fell over with a loud smack. Scared me. Nothing could have made that happen. No dogs were around, the cats were sitting with me, so it was weird for it just to fall over. A couple weeks later, again in the living room at night after everyone is asleep, things usually happen when I'm by myself, so I think something is trying to get my attention. A loud noise came from the playroom, like a toy falling on the indoor playhouse thing or something. So I get up to look for a cat. Nope, they were both in the living room with me. Dogs were in the kids' rooms, and I couldn't figure out what made the noise. No toys had fallen or anything. Surprisingly, the playroom was clean and nothing was out of place. Another time during this recent time span, I'm in my bedroom. My husband fell asleep in my son's room, and everyone is asleep. I'm sitting in my bed watching TV and crocheting, of course, and the door to my bathroom just kicks open. They are French doors, and they're both shut completely. Ugh. Sometimes if the air kicks on, it can make them do that if they're not completely closed, but the air didn't kick on. They were just completely closed. Also, it wasn't the cats or dogs. There was nothing near there. It just popped open. Nope, Chris doesn't open that. Also, during this time span, I would occasionally see a flash of light out of my peripheral vision. It would be random times of the day, usually when I was alone in the room. I would mostly see it at the end of our hallway by our front door, which is dark because of the lack of windows over there. Once I heard a little girl's voice say, "Mama." Nope, I'm nope in that one.
I'm just rejecting all stories today.
Yeah, Krista's,
just stop.
Yeah, it's a permanent nope. Another time, maybe in January, so fairly recent, one of the toys in the playroom went off by itself. It's a toy school bus that sings songs. Sometimes if the kids leave it in the on position, it will go off if it's bumped or moved. It was in the on position, but it was put away in the cubby shelf, and no animals or kids were near it or even in the room when it went off. I just said, "Okay, I hear you, hi," and turned it off. This happened at nighttime when I was crocheting and watching TV.
Maybe she should stop crocheting.
Stop crocheting.
I'm just saying.
Things have been fairly quiet lately. It seems that sometimes when I get into watching spooky shows or listening to spooky stories, things seem to happen more frequently. It could be that maybe I'm more open at that point.
Right.
I also
paying more
found,
attention.
I also found that I feel like I can close my mind to it if need be. Anyway, I feel like I've written a book, LOL. This is my first time really writing into anyone to share my experiences. So thank you for sharing them with us. If you have any questions or want more details, let me know. Love the show. Keep up the great work, guys. Sincerely, Amanda.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
That's
Amanda's got a lot going on there.
Yeah.
I wonder if it is tied to her.
Yeah, right.
You know,
it's one thing to live in one house that has activity, but then to move to another house, it makes you wonder if it's you.
Yep.
I mean, I'm sorry. It's not you, it's me kind of thing.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
something might be attached.
Yikes.
Not to freak you out.
Yeah, but it's not, I don't think it's bad. I mean, nothing has happened since I mean, nothing bad has happened to her since it started.
Right.
So
Just
but
creepy
thank you
stuff.
for sharing that with us.
Yeah.
Couple nopes in there from Krista, so that always means it's a good
story if
it's a
I'm
good
noping
story.
it.
And we are going to go on to an MP3 from Coleman. I want to say before we start that I have finished the jubes and I have drank the gel juice out of the jubes. I'm bumping my rating up to an 8 because I actually really like it now.
And I was mildly horrified the whole time.
Yeah, she's watching me chug the juice out of there.
Ugh.
But no, I liked it. Once I kind of got used to the weird texture. Yeah,
And I couldn't get past
and then
it.
they were good.
I literally spit out the first two I put in, and I haven't had any more.
I think that's the first time I have raised a rating from a 4 to an 8 during the course of an episode.
It's not the first time I've spit something out, though. I think I've spit out one of the fishy flavors. Shut up.
Anyway, moving on. This is an MP3 from Coleman. Krista and I are going to have a discussion during this.
Hey, Kurt. Hey, Krista. This is Coleman coming to you from south central Wisconsin, about an hour north of Madison. I'm the guy who sent you the Bigfoot call and the pickle candy. Love the podcast. Keep up the great work. I'm addicted. So this is my listener story I'm sending you. This happened a long time ago when I was around 12, 13 years old. So I know the basics of the story, but I can't remember all the details. But I do remember it did scare the living bejesus out of me. So when I turned 12 or 13 years old, it was a rite of passage that I would get to go deer hunting up north with my dad, my uncle, and my grandfather up in the great north woods of northern Wisconsin, up by Tomahawk. Well, this was the first time I would get to sit alone out hunting. My dad literally told me to climb up a tree and sit there all day till you see a deer or shoot at a deer. So I did it. I sat all day to just about before dark where I could still see and walk out. And just to give you an idea, the landscape was obviously heavily wooded and some jungle brush. So I decided to get down when it was still somewhat light out and I could walk back to the truck because it was a pretty good hike back to the truck. And as I got down, the first thing I noticed and thought was weird was that there was no sounds in the wood. No squirrels, no chipmunks, no birds, nothing. I mean, it was dead silent, and I thought that was really strange. So I started walking, and there was snow on the ground. It was November. Back then, we did get a lot of snow in November. And I started walking, and as I started walking, I felt like I was being watched. And, you know, that feeling just happens sometimes, but I got the feeling like I was being watched as I was walking back to the truck to meet my dad. And as I was walking, I heard a branch break. At first, I didn't really think nothing of it. You know, the sounds get the better of us sometimes, you know, especially our imagination. But I know I heard a branch break. So I didn't think nothing of it, and I kept walking. Well, then once I started walking for a bit again, I thought I heard another branch break, an even larger branch. And it really spooked me that time. Like, it sent chills down the back of my neck. Because, again, I felt like I was being watched the whole time. And this time, as I started walking again, something started walking behind me, maybe 30, 40 yards back behind me, started walking as I started walking in sequence, like it was following me. So this kind of really freaked me out, and I kept walking, and I stopped quickly and turned around, and there was something behind a tree. I don't know what it was. All I seen was the shape of a outline of a head, 7 to 8 feet up a tree, trying to hide behind a tree. All I could see is dark fur and a dark outline of a head. I couldn't see anything else, but it was high up a tree, and it was too high to be a man. And I remember being, 12, 13 years old, yelling at whatever it was, saying, "Hello, hello." And I remember also yelling, "I have a loaded gun." I was scared. I honestly was scared. I don't know if that was right or wrong to yell it, but when I said that, I didn't get no reply back. It just was dead silent, and the thing was hiding behind a tree. I'm not saying it was a Bigfoot. I'm not saying I don't know what it was. But what I do know, it did scare the living bejesus out of me, being a young kid alone in the big woods, you know. And I'll be honest, it spooked me so bad that after that happened, I didn't hunt for a couple years until I got older and became more intrigued instead of scared. After I kept walking back to the truck, after I started walking again back to the truck, it started walking, and I could hear it walking through the jungle brush behind me. But the brush was so thick, I couldn't see what it was clearly. But all I know, it was big, it was tall, and it was dark. And like I said, I tried talking to it, and it would not respond. And it really freaked me out. When I got back to the truck, I told my father about it, and I got the same response that I thought I would get. And that was, oh, it's just your imagination. But to this day, I know it wasn't my imagination. Something was behind me. It was watching me. And I know black bears. I know black bears can stand up on their hind legs, but this was no black bear. We've hunted black bear. We have them on our property. We watch in the meadows, and it was no black bear. It was high up in the tree, and it had a human-shaped head with dark fur. Again, I'm not saying it was Bigfoot, but it really spooked me to this day. I even get chills talking about it. But again, I love the show, love the podcast. Keep up the great work, and can't wait for the future episodes. Take care, guys. Thank you.
Well, he's not going to say it was Bigfoot, but
He's the one that sent us that.
he is.
He is. Thank you so much, Coleman. We love your Wisconsin accent.
Yeah, it's nice
There's
to have
something,
a fellow
yeah,
Wisconsinite
there's something
on
just,
here.
I don't know. It's like
It's endearing.
It's like a warm embrace hearing a fellow
Wow.
Wisconsin accent.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Coleman.
Yes.
Krista's head was permanently noping throughout that whole story.
Yeah, as much of a Bigfoot enthusiast as I am, I don't think I ever want to actually encounter one.
It's because when you were talking about how it was
pacing him.
pacing,
It was clearly pacing him.
Krista was like, her eyes were all wide, and she was like, no.
No, and when all the animals around you stop making
Yes.
noises, it's a self-preservation thing.
Yep.
They know there's danger.
You know that's a bad sign when all of a sudden everything is dead quiet around you. So here's a lot of stories.
He
from
won't
hunters.
say it's Bigfoot. I will, though. That was Bigfoot.
Krista's A-okay saying it's Bigfoot.
So where were you?
But I hear a lot of hunter stories that are like that, where it goes quiet, and then the feeling that something is watching you is weird. I've talked about it on here. The only time I recall that really happening was when Aaron and I got the geocache in that one woods, kind of by LTC, Lakeshore Technical College. That wasn't even a creepy woods. It was just a regular woods.
Maybe there was just somebody out there
and
watching.
We walked in there, and I was like freaked out, and I wasn't going to say anything. But all of a sudden, Aaron is like, I feel like somebody's watching us. This is really creepy.
Was it daytime?
Yes. It was like at noon.
Yeah.
And it was this woods, and we just wanted to get out of there because we just both felt.
That's weird.
That's the only time I can really say that I've had the feeling of something watching me. And it's a horrible feeling. So I can't imagine what it's like being alone, like you were, Coleman.
I have felt that way during investigations, though.
Yeah, I haven't felt like that. I felt uneasy during investigations, but I don't think I've ever felt like I was being watched.
When we were in that, not safe, but
Oh, the vault?
the vault. When we were in the vault,
You hated that.
that I felt like something
Yeah.
was either in there with us or directly outside the door.
It was a hair salon in Manitowoc.
Yeah,
It used to
we
be
got crazy
that-
EVPs
yeah.
from there.
Yeah, and that's where I saw something walk in front of the vault when I was sitting in the vault by myself.
Yeah,
And I saw
Great.
something
You're
under
a
the crack.
Crazy person, because there were three of us.
But I
in
wasn't as
there.
creeped out in the vault as you were.
was.
Like I could tell
I was
that you were
horrified.
you were not talking. You were just like you did not.
I don't think
wanna
I said a
be
word the whole
there.
time. I'm claustrophobic to begin with, and we were in a vault in the dark with the door closed.
Yeah.
So that didn't help, but it was very intense. Like
Yeah.
I felt like there was
But that's
something there
where
with us.
there was a dehumidifier or humidifier. I never know which is which.
Right outside.
Right
the door.
outside,
Yeah.
and there was the orange light coming from it, and I was sitting in the vault, and I could see through the crack under the door the light. And
A
at some
shadow.
point, I saw like somebody walked in front of the door, turned around, and walked the other
that's
way.
so creepy.
And I got on the walkie-talkie, and I said, "Are any of you down here?" And you guys really know. But yeah, you were That was the
You know,
most
like
uncomfortable I think I've ever seen you on an investigation.
Other than my
was,
very first one at Vicky's
Yeah,
when we did that first
but being in the
session.
vault,
yeah,
you
that was horrible.
you were a hot mess.
I was. Very
So,
quiet, hot mess.
Thank you so much, Coleman.
Yeah.
We love those kinds of stories.
I think that might be our first Squatchy story.
Our first MP3 Squatchy story,
Yeah.
possibly. But yeah, I don't want to experience that. And these pop in my head when I'm walking on my trails and stuff all the time.
I'd like to see one from afar.
I'd like to see one on TV, like on
safe
TV.
distance. No, I need to see it for myself.
Oh.
I need to know for sure that it's a thing. Because unless I see something
You would be
for
happy
myself,
seeing like a Bigfoot type creature in the woods. I think
not up close and personal.
but still seeing
a
it,
very
wouldn't you
safe
still
distance.
freak out?
I would, but then I would know.
Yeah, I guess. That's not
And
on
then
my,
I would want more.
That's
like,
not on my
you know?
bucket list.
No.
Seeing, no. I think we have 2 more stories.
Okay.
This one is a long one. Do you not want to read it? I can read it.
Give me the short one.
We don't have a short one. They're
Damn
both pretty
it.
long. Okay, so
You take one, I'll take one.
no, I can do.
Oh.
This one's a. Well, you.
You haven't curded me yet today, so
This one's a 2 1/4 pager. Do you want to do it?
whatever.
And then I'll do Luke's.
Okay, yeah, you have to do Luke's.
Yeah, because I'm in Luke's.
Do you want me to do this one first then? Well, this is Coleman. Oh, Nathan. Oh, and then Luke starts here.
Yes.
Do you need this page?
Yes, but
okay.
you can finish it on the top.
Okay. Well, this is long.
I told you.
Okay.
People like hearing your voice.
From Nathan. Hi, Kurt and Krista.
Hi, Nathan.
Hi, Nathan. I keep meaning to write these up in general and wanted to do them for the listener stories episodes at some point. So as the latest podcast mentioned that there was a listener story episode coming up next, I thought I'd give you a couple of my oddest experiences. So for background, I think you've mentioned this, or I think I've mentioned this already. I describe myself as an interested skeptic, and I always try to find ways to explain stuff away. But at the same time, I enjoy odd experiences. So the first story is my most recent odd encounter, and the second is the earliest odd encounter I can think of. In both cases, it may have been the mind playing tricks, but interesting nonetheless, in my opinion. I hope that you enjoy them. Also, if you already have enough we had so many people say this. If you already had enough listener entries and these don't make it in to the episode, that's okay. Just hope they're fun for you to read.
No, people love the listener stories episode.
I do too. This is Missing
Yeah.
411 and listener stories
Yeah.
are like my favorite episodes. The Mothman. Oh, I did read this. The Mothman, but not as you know him. So last year in roughly October, I think it was, me and my fiance went on a dark sky evening. I didn't know what that was. Do you know what a dark sky evening is? I think it's like a stargazing thing. My fiance booked the tickets years back, but bad weather always stopped it. Finally, we had a date. She'd booked it with a trip to my parents' cabin in mind, which is roughly a 2.5-hour drive away. We got there and I checked on Google Maps how far away the dark sky evening was going to be, but didn't check time, just kind of eyeballed it and figured it was about another hour and a half away. It wasn't. It was on the winding Welsh roads and was a further 3.5 hours away. So we drove there, looked at the night sky with the rest of the tour. It was amazing. And then we headed back to the cabin. Sorry, that's a long preamble. Feel free to edit it down.
Nope.
Nope, we don't do editing. Well, apparently I do. So it's roughly 2 a.m. and about 6 hours into this round trip, which is a very long drive in the UK. And my fiance is fast asleep in the passenger seat. I'm driving along a relatively straight stretch of a country road. There's no road lights, just the car beams. On the right and side is a hill range, not big enough to call mountains, but very high and rocky. And on the left-hand side is a stone wall about 4 feet high, and it's that type of landscape, uninterrupted for a while. And then I see something in the distance on the left-hand side. It breaks up the unending gray wall, so it catches my attention. I couldn't make out what it was at first, but then as I got closer, it kind of looked like a person, slightly hunched over in a top hat.
Oh, God.
It's our third one. Just got goosebumps, and my immediate thought was, well, this can't be happening. More on that later. He'll get to that, apparently.
He curded us.
He curded me. But as I got closer, it still looked like a person hunched over in a top hat, and it almost looked like they were lifting that hat up. Like topping their
Yikes.
hat to
I
like
don't
the tip of the hat,
I
whatever.
do not like that. I am noping that.
I resisted the urge to wake my fiance because I figured it'd make her grumpy, being woken up from a restful sleep with me talking nonsense. And then just as I'm passing, so the headlights kind of stop being on it, at least the full beam stops being on it, it appears to just explode into hundreds of moths just as it
Wow.
goes out of sight.
Wow.
At the exact moment, a large moth flew right in front of the windscreen, like the windshield. By large, I mean around 2 to 3 inches, not like an actual Mothman.
No, but
Haha.
still, that's weird.
So in blind panic,
I don't like that. I don't like something exploding.
no,
in
that's
the
weird. Into something, yeah. So in a blind panic, I didn't know what else to do other than floor it and get as far away as I could as fast as possible.
Do not blame you.
No. So thoughts on this? Trying to be rational and think of a logical solution. I think there's a good chance that my mind played tricks on me. Near the end of a long journey at 2 a.m., I was probably overtired. Plus, the way your brain interprets things isn't necessarily in a logical order time-wise. We just perceive it that way. So maybe my brain saw the moth first and then almost created the outburst of moths beforehand as a result.
Possibly, but I don't know.
It does. I don't know.
That's a really specific.
That's a lot for your brain to do.
That's a really specific image, and I don't know where that would have got dredged up from.
Well, especially having seen this figure coming this whole time.
Yikes. I don't like that. I do not like this one. I'm noping this one. We need a button that we can hit and it'll say nope.
Nope.
Well, nope.
We need a nope button.
We need a nope button.
So story number 2. It's called, I had a wee on a ghost when I was around 8 years old.
Nice. This is our P episode.
And he gave us for background, this is the building the story occurred in, and then there's a link. So some rumored background. Allegedly in the domed area that you can see on the pic, oh, that must be in the link, a priest hung himself from the rafters there. I have no idea how true that is, but I remember being told the story. Anyway, my mom and dad used to do some work there, helping with like a play center for kids. They do arts and crafts classes, poetry, my dad, cookery, my mom, cookery.
I love when they say mum. I love mum.
So during the summer, I spent a lot of time there. They had a bouncy castle set up and stuff.
Nice.
So one day, me and a friend were there and we're playing on the bouncy castle, and I decided I needed the toilet, and he came with as he didn't know anyone else. Now, there's toilets connected to the room with the bouncy castle, but they were always really grim. Really,
I've been in some grim toilets in my life too.
Well, you already told a grim toilet
Yes,
story.
I did.
Really dirty, and the floor was always wet. That sounds about right. As I remember it, he said. So I decided we could go.
I always think about when we did that, we met up with those people that we were going to do that investigation in.
Was I with you?
Yes, it starts with a C. It's by Milwaukee. Cudahy.
Cudahy. I used to live in Cudahy.
Yes. Because Mark had a pee, so we stopped at that.
Oh, it was like.
And Mark said that was the worst.
It was like a train spotting
bathroom.
bathroom.
It was like a train spotting bathroom. He said that was the grossest bathroom he's ever been in his life.
I've seen some pretty disgusting bathrooms too. And porta potties at concerts and stuff.
Anyway.
I lost my place. Oh, so I decided we could go for a small walk up some stairs, as the play center bit was in the basement, and use the toilets in the dome as they were cleaner. So we get there and my friend sits outside opposite. I remember that the door to the toilet was really heavy and that there was music on outside. And as I went into the toilet and the door shut, it was quiet. You couldn't hear what was going on outside. So the room was laid out so that there was a series of maybe 5 cubicles on the right-hand wall. For reasons that I still can't work out, I went to the furthest one away and closed the door and went about my business. As I was going, I saw what looked like 2 spherical-ish objects that were light in the toilet bowl. Wow. At the time, I had never heard of the term orb and wouldn't for some years, but by comparison to the orbs that are on ghost shows, these were large, like maybe orange baseball sized, and they weren't perfectly spherical and kind of tapered slightly. I remember seeing them and thinking, this can't be happening.
I would think
same
the same
as
thing.
Story number 1. And then they rose out of the bowl. Peeing had long since ceased at this juncture.
I love the way he puts that.
And traveled past the left side of my face. At the same time, I felt a breeze on the left side of my face.
Yikes.
I quickly backed out of the toilet. I must have opened the door, I guess, and ran. The whole time I remember thinking, I've got to get past the other cubicles and open the heavy door. Bathrooms are creepy.
They
Closed stall doors creep me out. Like, what's in there? There could be something in there.
I was just thinking about that because I was playing a video game where you were like fighting zombies. It was like a shooter. And you always had to go in bathrooms and
check all the stalls.
And they would
There's
always,
Silent Hill games
you do
like
a couple
that too.
bathrooms that were okay. And then you go to one and
that
something
one
would
jump
jump
scare.
out at you. Yeah. So,
True. Horror movies, bathrooms are never a good place.
No.
Something bad's happening in there.
Always in the mirror of like public bathrooms.
Running past the cubicles was terrifying, but nothing happened, and thankfully the big, heavy door opened. As soon as it did, sound came flooding back into my ears. I ran straight to my friend and sat next to him. He asked me what had happened, and I just said, I'm not going back in those toilets. I believe I did tell him about an hour later. So there you go, my most recent and first strange experiences for you. There's a fair few in between, too. To try and put a logical spin on the second story, I'm thinking hyped up kid bouncing about full of sugar, goes into a colder room, has a bit of a funny turn, and that might explain it.
I don't know.
Like you're hallucinating at that point, then?
I possibly, but I mean, I've had sugar buzzes, and
I've never hallucinated from a sugar buzz.
Unless
I think
he
you
was
had
dizzy,
one a little while ago.
Unless he was, unless he was dizzy from the bouncing castle, and he was like seeing something because he was dizzy.
I would think that would wear off by the time.
I would think so too. And I've been dizzy, and I've never seen orbs.
I've never hallucinated.
That's weird.
Yeah. Side note on story 2, my mom and brother, the one who did the scary house YouTube video that I shared on the Strangers page, I remember that, once chased a little girl who they thought had wandered into the wrong part of the building, and they were trying to get her back to the play area, and she ran around a corner and simply vanished. There was a dead end with a display table where she went, so there was nowhere for her to hide.
Yikes.
Always like that story too. Anyway, if you've gotten this far, thanks for reading. Thanks, Nathan.
Thank you so much, Nathan.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I don't know what to make of that bathroom one.
Well, or the first one with the moths.
No.
I mean, I don't know what that was. I suppose.
The moth one creeps me out. Like
maybe
the
if there
idea
was like
of
a tree there or something and a bunch of moths were on it, covering it, and in the dark you can misinterpret things that look like.
Possibly.
I once had a jacket hanging on a chair in my room.
I think everybody's.
And it looked like a person.
Yes, I think, but
there.
everybody's had that. That's
Right.
that's logical,
Matrixing or
but
whatever.
seeing the hat tipping thing and the bursting into moths,
yeah.
that's weird. Those are both
It's
weird.
very weird.
Thank you so much, Nathan. I
Yeah.
love those.
We made it through.
Yeah, I'm happy that it's daylight because I think I would be creeped out after
Yeah.
some of these stories if
All
it
of
wasn't.
them?
And now we get to our last story in which I kind of make an appearance, so it's kind of neat. And we're going to end, this one is more sweet than scary. So we're going to end on like a sweeter one.
Okay.
This is from my good friend Luke. He has submitted another story at one of our previous listener ones about the grocery store with throwing the bottle
Oh yeah.
on the top. Very good
Nice.
friend of mine. Super nice guy.
What's up, Luke?
Just a super good guy. Hi, Kurt and Krista. Hi, Luke. Thanks for all the work you two put into the podcast. I have been a huge fan since day one. Keep up the great work. Thank you so much.
I put zero work into this podcast.
And it's funny because people that I expected to listen to the podcast when we started doing it haven't. And then people I kind of didn't expect, like Luke,
Yeah, that's interesting.
just like religiously listen to it, which is so cool. So thank
Yeah.
you so much, Luke. Kurt has asked me to share some crazy synchronicities that have happened to me recently. A few months ago, I started noticing a ton of synchronicities. I started taking notes on my phone every time a strange one happened so I wouldn't forget, which is a good idea.
It is.
I almost should do that. There were a lot of things like saying a word and then the TV or radio saying the same random word at the same time. Krista said
just
on the
happened
drive here,
yesterday.
Krista was talking about that with her husband, that's been happening. And that's a big thing with me too, is it's almost always, I'm not on my computer a lot, but it's almost always when I'm doing research or typing up something for an episode that they say on TV, whatever word I happen to be. And it's always an oddball word. It's not just like of, you know, it's
Right.
like an oddball word. But I will share a few even more strange ones and then elaborate on the mother of all synchronicities, which is one that I was kind of there for, which was cool. So here is a rapid fire list of some odd ones first. I was listening to a podcast and they were talking about Komodo dragons. At the same time, I scroll past a random article online about a Komodo dragon. I teach and was thinking about a student who was working on a project about spiders. As I'm thinking about ideas to help him on this project, a large spider suddenly starts crawling down the wall next to me. No, Chris doesn't open that. She don't like spiders. There was a proposed youth prison to be built right down the road from me, but many of the locals were upset about it.
A youth prison?
A youth prison.
Wouldn't you call that juvenile detention
I think
center?
so, but still, youth
I
prison.
suppose it is a prison.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
which many of the locals were upset about. I was discussing a bald eagle next that would get destroyed because of this, and right after, while scrolling on my phone, an article titled, quote, "Eagles among 389 birds on the extinction report" showed up in my feed.
It's actually interesting because we saw a bald eagle on the way here.
Yeah,
and I'm
because
realizing the
Krista was
synchronicity.
Krista was driving, and I'm sitting next to her, and all of a sudden she kind of slams on the brakes because the car ahead of us slammed on the brakes.
And it was in the middle of the road.
And it was eating a dead animal.
Yeah.
And it was a bald eagle just sitting in the middle of the road.
I haven't seen one recently.
No.
It's been probably a good couple
so
of
that
months.
was weird to see it
so
in the middle of
that's
the
an
road like that.
interesting
Yeah.
synchronicity to this story.
Yep. I was thinking about going to Yosemite and Sequoia National Parks and discussing flying to San Francisco and renting a car. I'm scrolling through Facebook at the same time, and the very first post I see is someone literally posting their itinerary for that same exact plan. That's cool.
Yeah.
I was watching a TV show about the Badlands and Crazy Horse Monument. During the commercial, I open up Facebook and see an article posted about Crazy Horse. That's weird because these are the kinds of synchronicities I have too.
Yeah.
I was texting with someone about a crazy allergic reaction, which I believe was from Dos Equis beer, and a Dos Equis commercial comes on TV at the same time. It sounds like this was never really a thing for him before, that all of a sudden he started getting hit with these after we kind of started talking about it.
You know, I do wonder if some of these are, though, your phone is always listening.
But it's not...
Like Google is
I
listening.
totally believe that. We're going to have an
Facebook is
episode coming up
listening.
about
Yeah.
Big Brother listening. But some of these aren't really listening ones. Like, it's something that
Right.
he's
A couple of them.
thinking about. So that's bizarre.
Yeah.
And now my second favorite one. I was talking to some of my colleagues, and a former student came up in a discussion who I had taught years ago. I had shared how she was one of my all-time favorite students. Parentheses, not that we have favorites. That afternoon, I was taking a group of students to an park for an activity. As we were leaving, I saw a guy and a girl walking a dog down the path, and they got closer. I heard them say my name. I stopped and recognized her right away. It was the same student that we were just talking about that morning. She doesn't even live in the area, but happened to be passing through and took her boyfriend for a walk in this park. She shared with me how much she loved my class and that I was a huge reason she is in school to be a history teacher as well. It was completely random that I would be with students in this park and that she would be there as well. That one made me so happy and gave me goosebumps. I think that's so cool.
Yeah, that's really cool.
And now for the most bizarre one, and this one is really cool because Kurt was experiencing this with me in real time. And I texted you about this after it happened. This one happened while I was mowing the lawn and listening to your episode on synchronicities. As I was listening, I was thinking about a crazy one that happened to me years ago. I shared this with Kurt at the time, but will summarize it for you all to give you the context. When I was a kid, I was the youngest of almost 30 cousins and had a lot of health problems as a kid. My grandma was always super protective of me being the baby and all. We had a special connection. Unfortunately, she died while I was maybe 6. This was the first person who was close to me that passed away. I vividly remember my mom taking my brother and I to Shooty Park in Manitowoc for a picnic, and she explained to us that my grandma had lost her battle with cancer. She explained it by comparing it to caterpillars and butterflies. She said that while we are on Earth, we are kind of like those caterpillars, and that when we die, it's like going into the cocoon, but we'd later emerge as beautiful butterflies when our soul goes to heaven. From that time on, monarch butterflies have always reminded me of my grandparents who have now all passed away. Now jumping ahead to when I am a dad and I need to explain to my 6-year-old son that my grandpa, his great-grandpa, passed away. I was in the kitchen making him lunch and he was coloring at the table. I was thinking in my head how I can explain this to him and was thinking about how my mom had told me. I was lost in thought for a bit, and when I looked down and saw that what my son was drawing was a monarch butterfly emerging from a cocoon. I never saw him draw that before or after. I asked him why he thought of drawing that, and he simply just said it was on his mind. I remember I started tearing up. Now back to the present. While I am listening to the podcast on my lawnmower, I am reminiscing on this favorite synchronicity of mine. As I am thinking about all of this, Kurt and Krista mentioned something about a butterfly in the podcast, and that kind of snaps me out of my nostalgic daydream. And that was me talking about when randonauting brought me to that park, the tree way back in that corner of the park in Manitowoc, where I walked to the tree, and these butterflies all flew out and started like circling around my head and then flew off. So then while cutting the lawn, all of a sudden, 2 butterflies start following me on my lawnmower, and I mean following me. They stayed with me and fluttered around me for the longest time. I can't believe this, so I start texting Kurt about all of this. We go back and forth a while, and Kurt mentions that he thinks butterflies might be my synchronicity. I agree, but now it goes from crazy to simply unbelievable. Right after I have this discussion with Kurt, out of the blue, my mom texts me pictures of butterflies that are following her by her patio. She jokingly says that Grandma must be stopping by for an old-fashioned. For non-Wisconsin listeners, it's the best drink ever. And that Grandma must be trying to celebrate her birthday. I had no clue, but that day was my grandma's birthday. I texted my mom that I also had butterflies following me. She jokingly replies with, "Well, you were always her favorite." My mind was blown, and I was speechless by this unbelievable sequence of events. Sorry for the long story, but I hope you enjoy it.
That was really cool.
Thanks, Luke. It was, because it was so funny that because we were texting. I was laying on the couch, and he was telling me about these butterflies that started following him during this podcast while he was cutting the lawn, listening to my story about butterflies. And then he sends me, he does a screenshot of the text from his mom, sends him a picture of the butterfly right next to her on a plant, saying,
the fact that it's her
birthday
that day really
he had no
nails it
idea
home.
that it was her
Yeah.
birthday. So that was just so cool. I loved
very
kind
cool.
of being involved with that.
Yeah.
Because that, I couldn't believe it when he sent me the screenshots of his mom texting. So that's so cool. So
Yeah.
thank you so much, Luke, for
Thanks,
typing
Luke.
that up and for sharing that with all of us. And I think that's it for stories.
Wow.
We did.
We had a good batch.
We had a very
Lots
good
of
batch.
nopes.
We had UFOs. We had lots of nopes. We had ghosts. We had
even had a little
synchronicities.
Bigfoot.
Little Bigfoot. We had everything. So thank you so much, guys. We love you guys so much. So thank you for sending us these. And I think that's it. We are going to probably skip our usual stuff because
We've held you hostage long
we've held
enough.
you hostage. Some people love longer episodes.
Yeah.
Some people hate longer
We'll break
episodes.
it into a couple listening. I'll have to.
Yeah. So we're going to skip the music selection. We're going to
pickle
skip the
joke.
pickle joke. We're going to skip the
Question.
question. So we're just going to go right to the deets.
Deets.
The deets are, you can email us at thestrangesessions@gmail.com. We are on Twitter at Strange Session without the final S. Krista does a swell job on Instagram at The Strange Sessions. You can send us postcards and snail mail to The Strange Sessions, P.O. Box 434, Manitowoc, Wisconsin, 54221-0434. And you can call our lonely phone line at 920-443-9602 and leave a message.
Yes.
So we weren't originally going to do a listener stories this season because
I suggested it.
I know you did. No, I realize you were right. We always told people they could just send them in anytime and we would read them in the next episode. But I didn't realize how much people love the listener story episodes. So we're going to keep doing this. Once a season, we will do a listener stories episode. Once a season, we will do a missing 411 episode.
We're still due a missing 411 episode.
That's probably going to be...
the season.
Oh, maybe I
Choking
do
on a
have
jube.
COVID.
Great. Now I have it. Are you going to sneeze or
I think
cough?
so. Anyway, it's like stuck right there. Anyway, so we will get to a missing 411 episode this season, probably
Yes.
maybe a season finale.
That'd be cool. Well, our season finale will be during the holidays, right? Oh, then we
always do
that'd
like
be
a
okay.
Christmas episode.
Yep.
But
It'd be good to go out a missing 411.
yeah, but I got to find more stories because we're starting to run dry on stories.
I bet there's more.
We'll just make them up.
Yeah.
They won't know.
We'll kidnap some people
Kidnap some people.
and hide them out in the woods somewhere.
Sophie listened to our latest missing 411 episode, and she loves our theory that David Politis is the one that's killing
doing
these
it?
people. Yeah.
To sell books.
Just to sell books.
His extremely expensive books.
Hey, it's working.
Yeah. Or no, they're crazy expensive on Amazon, right? If you
Yeah.
go right to the website, they're
Yep.
not as bad.
I still kind of want to buy them from the website. I'd like to buy the whole batch,
to
but
have
it's like
them.
$100-something bucks. But we'll see.
We could probably get some stories from there.
Yeah, probably. There's a couple that I do have jotted down, so we will have enough for an episode.
Okay.
So that'll probably be later this season, and I think that's it. Thank you again, everybody, for the stories. They were awesome. And
Even the ones I noped.
even the ones, the noping is a good thing.
It is a
'cause
good
That means
thing.
it's an effective, creepy story.
Yep.
So anything else you want to say?
No?
I think that's it.
Sweet.
I think we're going to head home.
Yep.
I keep thinking I'm going to sneeze, and I'm not. So until next time, from Krista and I in the Old School Media Studio, stay strange.
This has been an Old School Media production, executive produced by Kirk Konechny. For more information and content, please visit strangesessions.com.